Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cinematic Schematic, the official podcast of thecinematropolis.com, your home to thoughtful conversations on film. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and today we're gearing up for the most important time of the year. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's clobbering time, because today we're reviewing Fantastic Four, First Steps. We're going to start today by catching up with our co-host Laron Chapman to hear what he's been up to lately, specifically in his opinions on Superman, because he missed that review. Number one. Number two, we're going to talk about a lot of juicy MCU news, because this is going to be our big MCU blowout episode of the year. We haven't done one of these for a while. And then number three, we're going to do an icebreaker like we always do before jumping into a spoiler-free review of Fantastic Four: First Steps. I'm so excited to welcome back the prodigal co-host has returned. He's an award-winning Oklahoma filmmaker, and he is, without a doubt, one of the most fantastic of the Fantastic Fours.
Oh,
You're part of my Fantastic Four, Laron Chapman. Welcome back.
Thank you. Is it strategic that we have 4 people on the panel today?
And they are fantastic. Also
and they
fantastic.
Are also very fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
Mm-hmm. Well, welcome back to the land of the living.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be back, and surprisingly glad to be talking about superhero movies again.
This is weird.
This is a weird.
This is a strange
I know.
time.
If you've been following this podcast,
This
these words seem, that sentence is not.
Listen, we were trying real hard for a long time to not sound like downers. That was really the goal. Then this is why we brought on a pair of special guests, actually, who joined us for our big MCU blowout episode last year when we did our Deadpool and Wolverine review. First up, very excited. Welcome back, GoodTrash Media co-founder and co-host of the GoodTrash genre cast, Arthur Gordon. Arthur, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me again. I'm very excited that this all worked out the way that it did.
I know, isn't it beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's almost part of the plan. What was the A-Team? It's I love when the plan comes together in fantastic fashion. Because our last guest, but certainly not the least of the guests, that would be me, the least of the guests, is an Oklahoma filmmaker, Jada Merritt. Jada, welcome back.
Hi. Quick proposition for the audience or listeners. Go ahead and take a shot every time someone says fantastic. In this interview.
Good luck.
It's going to be a fantastic time, I'll tell you that.
Oh, goodness.
You definitely killed somebody.
Someone is already dead.
Someone's, already stumbling.
Within 2 minutes of a podcast, yes. Well, we have so much to talk about today, but before we get into the review, all the Marvel news, I wanted to note that if you're listening to the show and you enjoyed the conversation, please make sure to hit us up on your preferred podcast app, subscribing and leaving us a rating and a review. A lot of folks are starting to subscribe to us on YouTube, so join the thing that's all the rage, apparently, thanks to the algorithms. You can hit us up on YouTube. But yeah, leave us that rating and review, Apple Podcasts being the most effective place to do that. A quick programming update. So the summer is almost over. I know it's hard to believe. We're sitting here reviewing this the end of July. I don't know where the summer went, frankly. It's I thought it was just Memorial Day, like last week. Next week, we're going to be giving you all a little back-to-school treat, a special review of I Know What You Did Last Summer. This is a film hand-selected by co-host Laron Chapman. We are going to talk about all the things you may have done last summer in this movie review. And, of course, the review of I Know What You Did Last Summer 2025, not to be confused with the original 1997 film that's based off some book. So that's next week. Then, the following week, we are going to be diving into another horror that I am especially excited to see. On August 13th, we're going to be reviewing the new film from writer-director Zach Cregger, Weapons. This is the director who did Barbarian a couple of years back and kind of, I think, blew a lot of our socks off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big surprise. And the trailer looks really freaking good. I have theories about what it's about, but I couldn't actually tell you, which is the best kind of way to go in.
I like that there's already mystery around the premise, because whereas most horror movies, like, I know what that is, I'm still going to be there, but like, I know what it is already.
It's going to make
We don't know what this is, and I love that.
It's going to make children so scary. Even in the trailer, they're just running around with their hands down. I'm like, oh gosh, that's
Why
creepy.
did you notice in IMAX, it's playing in IMAX, and it's showing at
2:17. I did notice that.
I was like, that's so weird. Why is it? That's so random. And then I see the trailer, and I was like, oh, they're tying this in.
They're tying it in.
First time I saw one of those, you know how they showed those like little teaser clips that they just like released and didn't like tell you what it was for before they released like the trailer and the poster? I just thought it was some child like Naruto running in the middle of the street. I was like, someone was like, this is terrifying. I'm like, That's my entire high school experience.
Right.
Is watching Naruto run
Which
down
also
the
was
hall.
terrifying. No.
You know, I'd take a Naruto movie featuring the kids from Weapons. Sure. Yeah, so that's coming up, and then we're gonna wrap up our summer on August 27th with a 2025 summer review and a review roundup. We're going to talk about the summer at large. How well has the summer been going? How did it go? How are the films? And then we'll talk about a few of the films we just didn't get to because, you know, we'll get into more detail, but there was a lot of stuff this summer. We've increased our output on the show somewhat, and we still couldn't keep up with everything. So, you know, it's been chock full of a lot of movies, mostly good, it turns out. So a few of the films we didn't get to talk about on the show, we'll carve out some space there. And then after that, in the month of September, we'll be going on a short hiatus to take a break, to get some R&R before the awards season onslaught begins. Anyway, that's a little sneak peek at what we got come down the pipe for you on the Cinematic Schematic. But let's get back to new movies. Now, Laron Chapman, you were sorely missed in our Superman review 2 weeks ago. However, what you and I discussed, this was a pretty major, even before we saw the movie and, you know, thought good or bad, it's a pretty major title. So I wanted to give you at least a short space to talk about it if you have things to say.
Yeah, I know there was a lot hinging on this particular property and also the movie we're about to talk about. And, you know, with that, you know, came a lot of anticipation, but also the first trailer for this, I was like, even when you said we're making one of these, I'm like, I don't care. And then I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, okay, you have my attention. And so, as the positive reception kind of came in early about it, I was like, well, let's see where I align with that. Cause you know, I may be mixed on it myself, but honestly, I was really pretty blown away by just how substantive it is. And I think, you know, there's a certain level of cheese that comes with the aspiring kind of I don't know, kind of wholesomeness that kind of comes along with this particular character. But weirdly, I think that we're in a climate right now, in a culture with film right now where there's so much cynicism. There's so much bitterness. There's so much, you know, sarcasm. There's so much snark. There's so much just venom, really, kind of in media everywhere. That this weirdly just felt like a warm hug. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like the kind of like the movie we need right now, the superhero we need right now. And in that regard, I feel like it just delivered. It was very thunderously entertaining. I thought David Cornswell as Superman was perfectly cast. And weirdly, I kind of felt that when he played in that television show, was it on oh man, Hollywoodland or something
Oh,
like
yeah,
that
Hollywoodland, yeah.
on
Yeah.
Netflix? I was
Yeah.
like, he looks like a Superman.
Oh, wow.
He looks like he could be Superman. And then weirdly, I went back and like, it was like, who was that guy? And
I
it's
thought
just
you were
like,
going to talk about when he appeared in Pearl as the movie got
He's
No,
released.
not even-
literally
not
on a
Pearl.
farm in
not even.
Pearl.
I didn't even make the connection that was the same person in Pearl. And then when I went back, I was like, it's the dude from Hollywoodland. And I went back and looked. And I was like, it's the same person.
It is
Yep,
him.
it's exactly him. And that so weirdly, you're welcome. I put that in. I manifested that.
Lisa Nagaib.
I was correct.
You know, I need to go back and listen, and I'm sorry, Corey, I forgot which show it was. He also said, if you go back and look at my Twitter, I called David Cornswell as Superman 2 years when he showed up on not Hollywoodland, some other show, and I cannot remember. He was like, so clearly that was a thing when people saw him. They were like, he looks like Superman.
He just had this look about him, and it's this weird aura about him that just aligns so well with this. He has a great chemistry with Rachel Brosnahan in this. I felt like they got that right for that first scene where they're fighting in the apartment after that. That rang so true and lived in. What I love about both of the movies that we're going to talk about today is just that it trims the fat. We don't need the origin story. We don't need all the, you know what I mean? Like I love that it streamlines it. It lets us get to the business of the story that we're going to tell in front of us. And they found a way to tie it into current events that feel timely and feel, you know, weighty in a weird way.
But also without feeling like overly preachy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is a very thin line.
Absolutely.
You know?
And they also got it's through and through a James Gunn film. So it has that weird, you know, quirkiness about it. But I think it plays well here. And I also think that Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor was
Oh, nailed it.
also perfectly
Yeah.
cast. So yeah, it just got that.
I
really
felt I
thrust.
felt vindicated. Finally, I had a big screen. I mean, because I always liked the animated Lex Luthor voiced by Clancy Brown quite a lot, and I really like Michael Rosenbaum's Lex Luthor from Smallville. But on the big screen, I was always like, I know everyone says Gene Hackman's good, and he is good at playing a version of that character that I just feel like is also not really the version of the character that like carries the weight. Just more the huckster, versus the evil corporate businessman who's sort of envious of Superman. So Nicholas Hoult brought that.
Absolutely.
Really brought that to the big
and
screen.
There's one final shot between the two of them towards the end, that glare off, that stare off between them when he has eyes, his eyes are welling. I felt like that
iconic.
It's just an iconic moment. You know what I mean? Like you felt it. You felt the gravity of that scene in that moment. So yeah, I'm team #woke Superman. Even though I felt like that was already implied, but whatever. People are finally realizing that woke just means enlightened, but cool.
Wait, Superman's about an immigrant story?
It's an immigrant story.
What?
I need you to sit down for this, guys.
Krypton's not from America?
Man, yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Krypton,
Man.
Kansas.
Yeah. Oh, snap.
Yeah.
My gosh, what are we going to do about that dog? He's also an illegal immigrant canine.
Man.
Well, very happy to hear that you really enjoyed the movie, Laron. It is, I mean, it's been a pretty good summer overall, but definitely a highlight for me as a Superman fan to see both the characters done right and also overall very good movie. I wouldn't say like A+ best movie, but like nailing the characters
the
and
characterization
is the most for me was the most important thing, and they did it in a very good movie.
Exactly.
So and it also is like, well, if this is where we're starting at, I can't wait to see what they do for the next one. So very excited about the future of the DCU from James Gunn and Peter Safran. One last note. So just this weekend, Superman has crossed $500 million worldwide. We were saying there's a lot hinging on this movie, and it seems to be a critical and financial success.
I think that James Gunn shook a comic book and David Corn's what fell out. He is pitch perfect about that. I love a lot of things about Superman, mostly the James Gunn thing of where, like, I feel like his strength as a director is a character can show up on screen for like 2 minutes tops and you still remember them afterwards. Like they're all visceral. And it's getting people to watch My Adventures with Superman, which is one of my favorite animated shows that's out right now.
Right here. I'm watching it right now. It's so good.
It is
so
fantastic.
Wholesome.
There's 2 seasons out right now on HBO Max if anyone wants to go and watch it. Or you could, do the other thing that I'm not going to say because, FBI might be listening. But it's fantastic. There's a 3rd season on the way. Jack Quaid is fantastic in the voice acting, and I love the little race bending things that they do. There's a Korean Lois Lane. Jimmy Olsen's black, which is really fun. They do a lot of twists on certain characters that you normally see, which is really cool. But yeah, I was like, I just love that people are getting into Big Blue again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what we need.
Having grown up for most of my life hearing people say, oh, Superman's so lame. Oh, Superman's too powerful. I mean, that was the thing. It was always like, Batman's cool. And I'm like, Batman is great. He's cool. But Superman's got a lot to offer that Batman doesn't, you know? And so to see us get multiple adaptations that seem to be really resonating with me, I'm like, okay, finally.
Guys, Batman's still a billionaire.
Yeah.
He's still,
let's be
people have loved to put Superman and Captain America in these boxes because they are seen as the cookie cutter, not follow the rules, rah, I'm going to be very, quote unquote patriotic.
Yeah.
But, we saw what happened with Cap's reputation. Everyone loves Captain America now.
Right.
When beforehand, people were like, oh, why would I want to watch that? And now I feel like the same thing's happening to Superman, which is very much overdue.
Way overdue. And, I there is something to what Laron was saying about just where we're at culturally. Being a nice, wholesome, loving, empathetic person, punk rock.
That's the punk rock.
Yeah.
That's the real punk
there's
rock.
something to that, All right, guys. Well, let's talk Marvel now. We've talked about the DC quite enough. Very excited. Also, Peacemaker Season 2 coming in here in a couple weeks. Very excited about that too. But again, DC, the other team. Let's go to Team Marvel, what we're here to talk about today. So there was a big Kevin Feige interview that came out a week ago, or a week and a half for listeners. And this is one he did like a big round table with a bunch of journalists the week before Fantastic Four came out. And we could talk about a lot of things here. It's it's wild how open he was about a lot of different things. Everything from all the different TV shows to their output to budgeting to special effects. There's three things I wanted to hone in on that, just to kind of read through and get reactions from you guys on this. The first, the big one. Laron, even Kevin Feige admitted we have been right. And by we, I'm saying like those of us who are like, another Marvel movie. So he acknowledged that Marvel post-Endgame was being spread too thin, which led to a drop in quality. So according to the interview, a snippet from the interview in Variety, we produced 50 hours of stories between 2007 and 2019, Feige said. But in the 6 years since Avengers Endgame, concluding the Infinity Saga, we had over 100 hours of stories in half the time. That's too much. The first time, different part of the interview, for the first time ever, quantity trumped quality. We had spent 12 years working on the Infinity Saga, saying that's never going to happen to us, Feige said. We always had more characters that people were asking about than we could possibly make because we weren't going to make a movie a month. That's crazy. Suddenly, there's a mandate to make more, and we go, well, I guess we have to do more, but maybe that's the trap we fell into. So, just putting that out there, and I say us right now. I mean, but like in general, there's just been it seems like Marvel's had some diminishing returns, and even at box office. I mean, Thunderbolts, huge critical hit, did not make a ton of money. Deadpool and Wolverine made tons of money last summer, but I also think there's a lot of unique one-time variables that sort of led to that movie being a huge hit.
There's so many cameos in that.
So many.
You could have come for any one of those reasons.
And people like Deadpool and people love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. There's also, but also at Captain America early this year did not do very well. I mean, the Marvels was a pretty devastating blow a couple of years back. So they've had a lot of misses, not to mention a lot of the TV shows, at least critically, have been panned pretty hard. And I also read that, like, in terms of like viewership minutes have generally been going down in terms of how people are watching those. So what's your take on this? It's pretty rare to hear the guy over the studio acknowledging that there was a mistake. It's weird.
I'm of two minds. One is that water is wet.
It's actually not.
It's not.
But...
I have heard this debate, but yes, the sentiment of that statement. Stating the obvious, but also refreshing to hear it come from the person that, But thank you for confirming what was obvious, but you're not gaslighting us into saying it's not the case. And so, and if you're at least aware of that, and you're acknowledging that you're aware of that, then there is at least the hope that will be considered moving forward with the next entries. And if that is the case, then we'll be better off for them. These movies will be better off for them. If I have to coexist with these movies, I just want them to be good, and so that I will be fine with that as long as the output is worth it. Because if they're dominating the cinematic stratosphere, then you know what I mean? Like, let's not make it, you're taking away from other things. So let's make sure this is actually worth it and has merit. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a good point. The first step to solving a problem is admitting you have a problem. So there's something to be said about that.
I have a few problems.
Jada, what is your take on the Kevin Feige acknowledging the lack of quality?
I mean, I've been saying this for quite a while. I think I said it last year in our Deadpool and Wolverine review. He's realizing that the train has gone a little bit further than he meant for it to. So, I mean, I think it's a positive. He's doing what George Lucas couldn't, which is saying like, oh, we kind of messed up on this. Let's kind of remedy it going forward a little bit instead of just letting the train run off without his say. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think this has been a long time coming because like, there's a point where you have to stop listening to audience demands because, the only reason that we started getting 3 or 4 or 5 Marvel properties a year is because people kept saying like, oh, after Endgame, we need more because we've had the most and now we need to exceed the most in everything that we do, which is kind of a big ask and it's a lot and it's going to wear people out on both sides, studio side, talent side, crew side, as well as the audiences. So I just think it's good that he's taking a breather and being very public about it too, which is great. just because transparency is something that I think people really admire nowadays.
Right. Absolutely. You mentioned even VFX being a huge. I mean, like, and not just because of Marvel films, but I would say largely because of them.
Yeah.
There's such a huge demand that the VFX houses can't keep up.
Yeah.
And they're burning.
And the VFX industry as a whole is kind of suffering because of that. Like, people are getting worn out beyond belief because of, too long work hours, not enough benefits, not enough, rest periods, which, I mean, that's kind of what sort of at least on the ground level on sets, that's what all of the strikes were about, a couple of years ago. But VFX folks are still kind of battling that out of the spotlight.
For sure.
Arthur, what's your take on this?
Probably just going to echo both Laron and Jada. I mean, I was probably trying to be a little more positive most of the last few years, but I still tried to watch these movies, but the television stuff started to fatigue me so quick. It was just way too much on that end. And then to bring that into the cinematic element was just beginning to wear pretty heavy. And, I kind of would go to bat for the Marvels or some of these other movies that didn't fare so well. But yeah, it's been too much. And 37 movies in less than 20 years is
insane.
Wild.
Insane.
Not counting anything else they've produced for
TV.
Yeah. So
that's just the movies.
Yeah.
I think they were like over 50. It was like over 50 projects in total.
Yeah.
Which is just insane.
Golly.
Yeah. So I
believe I've watched all.
It is nice. And as they mentioned, it's nice to see him sort of own this at this sort of level. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually take that to heart and do something with it moving forward.
Yeah. They could have thrown Bob Chapek under the bus, but they didn't. They didn't. I mean, just said Disney, the mandate from Disney, which also include the board. But it's
there were no names.
It was classy. There was no specific names.
There were no movies named. The lack of quality ones he's made.
I'm not going to name names, but pretty gowns, gorgeous gowns.
Well, the good news is that in terms of slowing down output, they are definitely doing that. He's saying we're looking at like moving forward, like maybe one show a year, and it's going to be less connected than they've been so far. And then we don't. So we're going to talk about this more in the Fantastic Four bit here, but like, there's not another. We have a Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland next year, which is Spider-Man: Brand New Day, which is an MCU movie. I think it's directed by the guy who did Shang-Chi.
Destin Daniel Cretton.
Destin Daniel Cretton. Thank you. And then we don't get another one until Avengers Doomsday, which is December 2026, which is crazy considering we're used to getting like, 4 of these a year? So it's definitely a change of pace. And I think a welcome one, frankly, because they also need that Avengers movie to be the biggest hit ever.
I just realized, I think the show that we're getting next year is Wonder Man.
Yes, that is it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he actually talked about Wonder Man in this part of this interview. I won't get into the details there. He was really upset. I guess the short version is he was really upset because that's apparently been done and sitting on the shelf for a while, but just because of all the shuffling with their scheduling, especially with TV, it sat there and he's mad because he says this was actually doing what the franchise and the studio did before they did it, and now it looks like we're chasing the trend even though we actually finished the show before either of those came out.
Yeah.
So, he did talk about Wonder Man. I'm very excited about that. Okay. Secondly, LeBron, this one's very important.
This is for me.
This one, it's for us. You and I have on this show, like there's really only 2 Marvel things we just bitch about all the time, which is number 1, where's Blade? Okay. And there was an update.
The original comic book, before we had all these other ones, before we cared about all that.
1998, man.
Maybe some of us didn't know it was a Marvel comic book, but when Wesley Snipes was in it, but it was a Marvel comic book. Go ahead.
100%. Yes. So, Mahershala Ali is still attached. That's the first line he said.
That's the most important thing.
The prolonged delays on Blade were a symptom he attributes as a symptom of Marvel's overexpansion. In quotes from Kevin Feige, as Marvel began to reevaluate its development process, the Blade movie, which was announced in 2019 and originally intended to hit theaters in November 2023, was one of the projects that had stalled. And then, this part's the quote. This is my favorite one. We didn't just want to simply put a leather outfit on Mahershala and have him start killing vampires. It had to be unique. To which I say,
Why not?
why not?
That's why
It's a
I'm
fairly
going.
That's who
simple
Blade is.
Very simple.
He wears leather and he kills vampires.
So wait, is he not going to be doing that?
I need to know that he's going to be
going
doing
back
that.
to school.
They're like, no, he's wearing faux leather, actually.
Oh my gosh.
Vegan leather, yeah.
Vegan leather. yeah.
Well, apparently there was 2 versions of this. He said there was 4 versions of a script that they considered, 2 of which were period pieces. One of those period pieces got far enough into costume design, which then got sold to centers for costumes. So,
Which
look great.
They look great.
Yeah.
But man, that would have been nice. I also am sad to hear that they've scrapped the
The period piece. Yeah, it's back in modern day. Yeah.
That would be interesting to me
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
see like the origin of that. But anyway,
So he
But
said
we got sinners out of it.
We
so
did
we
get
really
sinners.
won.
we kind of
Yeah.
did win. We
We all
win,
won.
though. We won.
He continues, it fell into the time when we started pulling back and saying only accept insanely great, and it wasn't insanely great at the time. We didn't feel like, as we often do, that you can have a good script and make it a great script during production. We didn't feel confident that we could do that on Blade, and we didn't want that to do that to Mahershala, and we didn't want it to do it to ourselves. Last note here. Blade was originally set to shoot in 2022, but director, hope I'm saying this right, Bassam Tariq, Mogul Mowgli was the film he directed, exited the project that September, roughly 2 months before the cameras were supposed to start rolling. They brought on the director of White Boy Rick. He signed on to direct and then exited the film in June 2024. And still to this day, there is currently no director attached. Mahershala Ali insists that he is still game. So I say update in quotes, Laron.
It's not bode confidence.
But if they do make it, it's going to be insanely great, apparently.
All right.
I'm just glad it's not off the table.
Yeah.
We hadn't heard anything for a long time,
time.
and it was very much like, oh God, I feel like this is a no news is bad news situation.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Well,
It is an update that it is still
the intention for both Mahershala Ali and in Marvel is that it will get made, so that's a positive start.
Yes.
At least it's not, we are not moving forward with it.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel like it's very much a please don't abandon us. We're gonna make Blade with Mahershala.
Yes.
it's gonna make so much money if they just
If they
just
do
make
it,
just
yeah.
make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Blade, Arthur, Blade, what do you think, man?
Yes, I want to see it. And if they're going to, slow down and give it 110% and make it insanely great, then yeah, I want it, But Mahershala's not getting any younger.
That's
Is my
what I'm worried
concern.
about. Yeah.
But yeah, no,
His
I don't know,
Oscars are getting old.
yeah, I know.
His 2 Oscars are getting dust on there.
And I don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm with everybody else. I mean, yeah, I want to see Blade killing vampires. That's what's the book's about. So, and it's horror. Like if you lean into that, you can do it pretty cheap and pretty effectively.
And they can do great horror. They did Werewolf by Night.
Which was
Yeah.
great.
A great short.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Like, why not?
I know. Lean into that, and
Laron and I have been saying this for so long, and our listeners are probably tired of hearing it. But it's like it's not rocket science, guys. There was before they made 3 Blade movies before from a studio that had nowhere near the resources that Disney has now.
It's lean into the gothic. Like I want to see. I want it to go dark. I mean, get rid of that cheesy sheen that it has. Give me some text. Some texture.
They could
so-
really
real
do
movie.
some
A
great,
real movie. Yeah,
They could do some great Midnight Suns sort of storylines with that.
for sure.
What's a good vampire movie? Just go hire whoever works on Del Toro's movies. Go hire that
Oh my God,
production
yes.
designer. I don't know. Okay, well that's Blade. It's still coming. Are we going to get it before or after the Winds of Winter? I'm not sure, but it's coming. It's gonna arrive one day. Lastly, the other thing Laron and I are constantly complaining about: where the hell are the X-Men? What they bought? Listen, they closed that deal with Fox in 2019. It's 2025. We don't even have a date yet. Where are the X-Men? Okay, well, Kevin Feige confirmed that following the events of 2027's Avengers: Secret Wars, the company will recast superpowered mutants for its upcoming X-Men movie directed by Jake Schreier, who most recently directed the Thunderbolts movie, which we quite liked on this show. Kevin Feige's quote, "It's official. Jake Schreier is doing X-Men for us, and we're very, very lucky," Feige said. And we're very, very lucky to have him, and we're excited to have, he says that we're excited to have him like 3 times. And so we're all just beginning. It's all just starting now. The script is underway. So, in other words, Laron, we're getting it. It's a long way off.
Yeah.
But it is happening.
Yeah.
And there's a real director attached to it, and there are real conversations about what the story would entail.
How do we feel about the recast?
Yeah. Well, that's okay. Yeah, the rest of it. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, we got to recast. You have to. It's inevitable. I at this point, like, listen, Ian McKellen's like in his 80s, guys. Patrick
Yeah.
Stewart in his 80s. Hugh Jackman, I know the joke is he's going to be doing this till he's 90, and I know he's iconic, but he can't do this for another like generation of X-Men movies.
Fair. That's fair.
You know, I love all those actors. I love them. They're in my mind. Patrick Stewart will probably always be Professor X.
Time to pass the torch.
But time to pass the torch. Just like Patrick Stewart took the torch in Star Trek: The Next Generation, can pass it off for X-Men.
It'll make it fresh too.
Yeah, I think it needs
fresh again for people. Yeah.
Remove the baggage.
Cast well.
So, to continue the thought from Kevin Feige here, let's see. We're utilizing Secret Wars not just to round out the stories we've been telling post-Endgame, just as importantly, and you can take a look at the Secret Wars comics for where that takes you. It's very, very much about setting up the future. Endgame was literally about endings. Secret Wars is about beginnings. But Kevin Feige, out of quotes, was careful not to characterize the changes as a reboot. Instead, he insisted that Secret Wars will serve as a reset for the MCU. His justification: reboot is a scary word. Reboot can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Reset, singular timeline, we're thinking along those lines. Later, he added, X-Men is where that will happen next. I don't know what... I mean... I know what that means kind of as a comic book fan, like a reset, but like it's just, I don't know, it's just weird. It's not a reboot though.
And the conversation about Fantastic Four is going to play into why that's such a like, oh God thing, you know?
Yes.
So
we're about to see a lot of different universes collide, and, you know, there'll be a new, presumably a new definitive one on the other side of it. So, you know. I guess this is how they do it. This is how we get the X-Men, the Fantastic Four in. All right. This is how we do it. All that said, what do you guys think? X-Men. I mean, I know, Arthur, you're a big X-Men. I think we're an X company here. I'm wearing an X-Men t-shirt right now. You know?
Yeah. I mean, they were one of the, I mean, when I grew up, I didn't have access to comics. It was TV. And so it was, you know, Batman, Spider-Man, and X-Men was what I, you know, Superman some, but, so yeah, I love those characters. And the great thing about X-Men, you know, especially thinking recast, is the team is so deep, you know, so many iterations and variations of team members you could bring in that you could do it almost without even touching the names in, you know, that we're most familiar with in Storm and Psyche and, you know, those people. And there's a way to kind of reapproach it and redo it. You know, it's a hesitation of like, don't rush into Phoenix, you know, like, it's like that's always the urge.
Yeah.
Not again.
It does seem like the delay to get to X-Men, even, I wonder if even Feige's like, hey, we got to do this right.
I hope
like
so.
that's been the delay. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I my assumption is a couple things. I think he does want to do it right,
like,
for sure.
I'm thinking as a company, like as a board, like X-Men's money.
Huge money for them.
You get that quick, but it seems like there's been a deliberate delay for whatever reason.
Well, and I also think whenever they had the merger went through, I actually don't think that was on his roadmap for creatively for the MCU at all. So I think sort of this whole multiverse saga is sort of their way to creatively make it make sense. Not that should have delayed the movie. We just got this Fantastic Four movie that we're going to talk about that you actually could have released at pretty much any point in time, and it would have felt like it didn't matter. But yeah, there has been, I think, the attention on quality there. And I also think him and a lot of people have been sitting around, how do we get these guys in our universe and make it make sense? Is my guess. Jada, any thoughts on the X-Men?
I am actually okay with the length of time that it's taking for them to introduce the X-Men. Just because I feel like on one hand, I'm very, very excited that they get the chance to cast new actors, hopefully unknowns, that get to grow into characters that either weren't introduced, weren't given their due diligence. I really feel for Lana Condor. She was a fantastic Jubilee, looked almost exactly like her in, X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah.
And then she had like 2 minutes of screen time. They cut out like 75% of her scenes. But she's like one of the most, like, she, you know, is one of the original kind of like, you know, in the original X-Men show, she shows up to the mansion and she's like, hey, I need help. And then they help her out. I just feel like, you know, having other characters like that, Sunspot, you know, Nightcrawler, you know, things like that. You have your core five, yes, and that's what they've mainly focused on, but having the opportunity to expand that, because the concept of a mutation is you being different somehow.
Mhm.
And in the world that they live in, there's like a billion possibilities of what that could be. I'm just excited to see creatively what they do with that. And then on the other hand, I also think that the most important aspect of the X-Men themselves is, if you're a politics hater, turn it off for just a couple of seconds. The politics of it all.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa. Are you saying X-Men is inherently political in the source material?
I'm not saying that Professor X and Magneto were formed
lot of
after two
childhoods are
civil
just-
rights, folks at all. But, just the idea of, I'm kind of tying it into Superman a little bit. This is not
Mhm.
at all a spoiler, but at the very beginning, they say metahumans have lived on Earth for 300 years.
Mhm.
So they're an established, period where, they're used to people with abilities. In the Marvel universe, they're not really all that open with, like, they have the Eternals and stuff like that, but they stayed secret. You had Cap, you had Captain Marvel, stuff like that. But they've never really had a, like, oh, we have people with abilities that are living among us as, like, a mass, like, a good portion of, everyone. And just sort of the thought of, like, mutants being introduced into the universe and everyone having dealt with the last 37 movies of, pain and destruction and, everything that's gone on throughout the Infinity Saga and the Multiverse Saga. And then people just being like, I don't know if I want to live with someone with abilities because of, everything that the human race has had to go through in the Marvel Cinematic Universe so far. So I feel like having, that sort of political, like, mutants just wanting to exist,
Mhm.
in a world where people are, hateful, which is a very, very prominent and current topic right now. I feel like that is something that really should be explored more.
I feel like the reason why X-Men, even for me, period, has ever become a thing that I've latched onto, even at a young age, probably unconsciously then, but more now, retrospect, thinking, being able to look at it, is that the mutants always were kind of a stand-in, of course, for the other, and as a
Mhm.
queer
Right.
person, as a Black
Yeah.
person, even though that was my experience, and that's what I was picking up on, is that these people are different and society hates them for their otherness or their differentness. And
Mhm.
so whatever that is for anybody, whether you were a loner in school or whatever, like, I just felt like that was always very like, oh, so comic book movies can be about things
Yes.
that are meaningful to people.
Yeah.
They're not just these shiny things that maybe they felt like with maybe like the earlier Joel Schumacher Batman movies or something, which have their place and all that stuff
Mhm.
too for people. But when we started saying like, oh, like with Spider-Man 2 or like we can make these movies have weight and mean something. That's when I was on board with the superhero like phenomenon that was unearthing. And then it started to feel like a money machine where it just like
Mhm.
we're getting them so often and they're
Right.
saying the same things in less interesting ways, like so.
Well, I will say my biggest my biggest concern about the X-Men is the fact that Marvel Disney is the one making it. If
Yeah.
I'm being honest, because
Yeah.
they have as we talked about. Well, we listeners who checked out our Superman review. I would argue that Marvel has notoriously done a thing that really bugs me, which is they bring up things that people are thinking about in the culture, but not meaningfully addressing them. It's like, here's this thing. We all know what this thing is. We're just gonna, yeah, it's a thing, but we're not actually gonna address it really.
But we did just get a really good commentary on mental health and Thunderbolts.
That's true.
So
That's true.
That's
Which
my,
is surprising.
That was
yeah, that's
surprising.
very much my, like, oh, I feel like they could pull it off if you have the right people at the helm.
Well, they have to. But the thing is, yes, right people at the helm. They have to be very, very good at what they do to walk the fine line of
Mhm.
this is a movie about outcasts who are hated because they are different. They look different. They sound different. They have abilities that make people feel uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Definitely not a parallel to the real world whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's why I love the X-Men. I guess that's my
Yeah.
chief concern is I'm going to get a watered down version.
Yeah.
But that's not a guarantee because, like you said, we did just get Thunderbolts.
Mhm.
I still think Captain America: Winter Soldier is probably the one that goes the furthest with its ideas of like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, Nazis infiltrating the highest levels of government, pretty scary, like. But generally, on the larger, I have been pretty disappointed with how Marvel has non-confronted a lot of timely ideas it brings up.
Yeah. I feel like now at this point, once they introduced Thanos and the thought of the concept of the Infinity Stones and wiping out half of the universe and all of the galactic cosmic stuff that we've gotten, there's no need to water down anything. Nothing is too quote unquote comic booky for a movie anymore. Like
Right.
we've done almost everything that you can do.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah. And I say watered down, I'm speaking specifically about like the sort of like socio-political component to the message, or not even the message, just the themes and the ideas.
Sure.
But that said, all X-Men, I think I'm with Arthur though. As much as I complain about giving the X-Men, we have X-Men 97, which has been top shelf X-Men.
S tier.
And I would rather us wait and them get it, really nail it. I really want the new cast.
For sure.
I want a new vision.
Same with Blade. It's just that they've teased it for so long.
Blade, they Blade in 2019.
Just keep him out. Just keep his
6
name out of
years
y'all's
ago.
mouth
Can you
until
believe
he's
that?
ready.
They announced it 6 years ago.
That is insane.
Yeah. So we thought we've been
grief.
clamoring for it. If we didn't know that information, we could just been
I know.
surprised.
Listen, there was COVID and there was a writer's strike and an actor's strike in there. I get it, but yeah.
And he talks about, and Feige talks about that a bit in the interview, where he's like, yeah, we've had a lot of hurdles that have, kind of messed with the process a bit and have muddied up, the process of making these films and these properties. So I'm glad that he's acknowledging it and not just being like, eh.
Yeah. Yep. No, I think it's good.
I see you.
I get on the internet and read Twitter and threads and stuff. I know what the people are saying.
Yeah. I know you guys are mad.
Yes.
Well, so many thoughts on all of the Marvel stuff. Real quick, that is our annual coverage on the state of Marvel Cinematic Universe. Thank you all for tuning in. I will say I'm really leaning into and curious to see what happens next, which is something I didn't think a year ago I would have said. So that's good. All right. So breaking the ice a little bit, you are going on an uncertain mission into space. Maybe you understand what the general goal is, but you don't actually know how you're going to execute it or exactly how to solve that problem. What group of 4 people, either real or fictional, would you take with you on this ship? And Arthur Gordon, I'll start with you.
All right. I've got this set up. I didn't know how to approach it at first, but I think I've put together a team that's going to make it happen.
Are they exceptional?
Possibly. So
Are they
first,
fantastic?
Is there an idea?
well, first I want to have like I like the idea of having a robot in the crew. Like that feels
Yes.
like pivotal to what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I also need a tank. Right. So I need somebody that can do some heavy lifting, do some defense. And so I thought a lot about, I think I want the T-800, the reprogrammed T-800 from T2.
Oh.
Yeah.
I want Arnie there.
Yeah.
He can do some
defense
tech
tool.
integration. He can do weapons. And he's a big softy, and kind of comfort you too, but he's also going to do the work when you need it. Second, I need somebody on comms. I want somebody that knows language, can help translate messages beyond the technology scope. And so I want Dr. Louise Banks from Arrival.
Oh.
In my team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man.
I want,
Okay.
I
It's a
want
great-
that there.
great-
yeah.
Great
I thought
pick.
you were going Uhura for a
Ah,
second. I was
yeah.
like, yeah, my girl.
Well, we will get into Star Trek next because we need a medic, and we need the best medic in the universe. And I'm going to go with Bones McCoy.
Oh,
Yes.
my goodness.
He might not be the most versatile crew member because he constantly reminds us that he's a doctor and not a fill in the blank. But we love him anyway. And then finally, we're going to get weird. We're going to get odd. And if we're making this a movie, we're going to do the full I need a CG character in here.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to bring in Launchpad McQuack from Darkwing Duck because I need a pilot. I need somebody to fly this
gotta have a
ship.
pilot.
And I want Launchpad McQuack.
Who doesn't want Launchpad? He's going to come in. If you ever get caught in a tizzy, he can fly you out of there with his little helicopter
Yeah,
hat.
and he can make me a mean sandwich, I think. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
sick. That is an incredible crew. I'm going to have to, I think you just poached one of my crew members, though. I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board
Whoa.
and re-recruit there.
Was it Launchpad?
Yeah, you had me at Launchpad. All right. Jada, what is your pick?
Okay, so I debated over this for a while just because I was like, oh goodness. I was like, what do I need the most? Because honestly, you've seen a lot of spaceship shows. They need more than 4 people, but just having it down to 4 is kind of hard. So my first person that I got was Neil deGrasse Tyson. Just
there we
because I need someone who understands space down to like the nth degree and can explain a lot of problems. And then my second one, I said Beyonce just because I need an excuse to hang out with her.
Love it. Alien superstar.
And then, yes. And my third choice, okay, hear me out. Elmer Fudd.
Elmer Fudd.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, someone's got to go hunt them wabbits.
So I'm just saying, if I was in space and Galactus came up to me, I'd be like, "Oh, look, a wabbit." And I don't know if do cartoon physics apply in space? Are they the same as real life physics? Who knows? Maybe his gun could be super helpful.
Yeah.
And I was debating because I was like, I kind of want a Looney Tunes character, but then I was thinking like Bugs Bunny wouldn't do anything. Daffy would be too neurotic and in my ear. So would Porky and Foghorn. And I was like, Tweety would judge me the whole time. I don't want Wile E. Coyote, Tasmanian Devil, Roadrunner, or Yosemite Sam. We would never make it out of the atmosphere.
No, Yosemite Sam. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, no, we wouldn't make it off the launch pad with that. We would immediately explode. And then my fourth choice is Gurney Halleck from Dune.
Ooh,
I would, just because, War Master of House Atreides, I feel like he would be really great in teaching me how to defend myself and also being a really good strategist and just, teaching, and just defending the crew and, being a really good strategist. And I think he would do duets with Beyonce on his balisette, which would be fun. So, yeah.
Got to be entertained,
That is going to be a fun
Yeah,
trip.
you're going to have a fun ride.
I mean,
to do whatever y'all are doing.
Whatever you're doing, maybe it's to spread the world's culture through Beyonce. I think that would be amazing. Great choices. Laron Chapman, what is your Fantastic Four pick here?
Okay, so guys, I'm not super brave at all. So I need somebody who is. So I went with Ellen Ripley from the Alien series.
Yes.
Intelligent, smart woman, primal. She's gonna go investigate the things that go bump in the night because I'm not curious. I also went with Dana Scully from the X-Files.
There you go.
Because she's pragmatic. She seeks the kind of natural evidence-based explanations for everything, so we're not going to get into the minutia of all that. She's going to only think about what's important in that particular moment. I felt really, really, really proud about Louise Banks until Arthur stole that from me.
Yeah, she's off the board, man. Yeah.
But I'm going to have to borrow her, at least go on the mission with you, because I also thought that would be very necessary. We need a linguistics expert, somebody who can kind of explore and examine speech and behavioral patterns of extraterrestrial forms that we would invariably encounter while we're up there. And the last one I went with was Dr. Ryan Stone, Sandra Bullock in Gravity, because she's a medical engineer and she was on her first shuttle mission to space with the astronaut George Clooney in that. And she survived that somehow and made it back onto Earth. So I feel like she would have some profound insight on how to navigate one's first mission, into space. So
I feel like that would be a great band name, the astronaut George Clooney.
The astronaut George Clooney.
You guys, it's amazing picks here. Listen, Dr. Louise Banks was also on my list. And unfortunately, the talent pool does not allow me to. I'm gonna play fair and square. She's off the board, and because I didn't have time and I had to scramble to find another candidate right before the launch, I had to go to the obvious next choice, which is C-3PO. He's a protocol droid designed to assist in etiquette and translation, and is fluent in over 6 million forms of communication. He is way more annoying and way less hot, but you know what? That's what you got to do. What you got to do right before launch whenever someone poaches your talent, Dr. Louise Banks. So good on you, Arthur, for pulling off the board. Great choice. I also needed a captain, and I also went to the Star Trek well, and I opted for Captain Picard, Patrick Stewart himself from Star Trek Next Generation. I like how he problem solves. He's a lot less gung-ho than the OG Captain Kirk. He likes to think through his problems a little more, and I respect that. A leader who sits and
no
thinks.
Grandizing.
And Kirk gets punched a little too much.
Exactly.
Really have a good mindset.
Exactly. That's where I'm at. Now, to bring a little bit of spunk, so this is not totally boring, especially since, again, the super hot linguist who has a sense of humor is now off the table and it requires enjoyment. I did get someone with some spunk, someone who's a survivalist. So you get stranded somewhere, or you have to build a base on a planet that you've never been on before. I went, of course, with Mark Watney, Matt Damon from The Martian, because he is going to science the shit out of this if we get stuck in a tough
Literally.
spot. Exactly. Literally. And so, yeah, I had to have him in my tool belt. And last but certainly not least, I had to go with an inventor, an engineer who would help me build contraptions or tools I needed to accomplish said mission. And that left me with Q from James Bond. And I kind of went back and forth there. I went John Cleese or Ben Whishaw. I think I think John Cleese might get to be a little too much. So I'm going to go with the Ben Whishaw version. You know, he's a lot more soft-spoken. He's
He's
humor,
more agile.
Yeah, very much more agile.
More stamina.
Unfortunately, this means this is an all sausage fest because my one woman got pulled and I'm stuck with a droid. But, you know, I guess there are less distractions.
Yeah. And note how I don't need a linguist because I am.
She is a
There you go.
She is a
Boom. That's right. There you go. Damn.
I also did all females, if you notice on mine too, because we tried patriarchy. And
The
it
girlies
didn't work.
and Laron.
It didn't work. It didn't work. So
It's
just,
Laron and the
me and the girlies.
I mean, I honestly, Laron, that's not the worst idea in the world. All right, listeners. Well, who would you put on your voyage into space on the uncertain mission? You can let us know by following us on social media, facebook.com/thecinemetropolis, on Instagram @thecinemetrop, or sending us an email at thecinemetropolis@gmail.com. At long last, we have made it to our review of the movie we all came to talk about today, Fantastic Four.
Wow, folks, we all know the story. 4 brave astronauts head up into space and come back forever changed.
This car?
Our city, our planet, owe a debt to these intrepid souls. And while we can never repay them, we can certainly celebrate them.
Thank you, Fantastic Four. Thank you.
Thank you, Fantastic Four!
Please welcome the Fantastic Four.
So according to IMDb, Fantastic Four First Steps is described as forced to balance their roles as heroes with the strength of their family bond, the Fantastic Four must defend Earth from a ravenous space god called Galactus and his enigmatic herald, Silver Surfer. This is the 37th entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe since 2008. That's a lot of movie. This is also the second reboot and third iteration of the Fantastic Four that's made its way to the big screen. Now, for those of you who are not familiar or don't recall, the first of the version that we saw on the big screen, there's one version we did not see on the big screen. The first one that actually played on the big screen was the 2 Tim Story Fantastic Four films from 2005 and 2007, respectively, starring, I can never pronounce his name, I think it's like Ian Gruft, Jessica Alba, Chris Evans, and Michael Chiklis from The Shield. Great casting, by the way. Even if the movies weren't always the best. Great casting. We then got a second version several years later that I frankly completely forget about every time someone brings it up. I forget this existed.
It's the Mandela effect.
It
I'm not
is.
sure
Everyone else.
I'm not sure it actually happened.
Josh Trank's 2015 Fantastic Four film starring Miles Teller, Kate Mara, Michael B. Jordan, and Jamie Bell as the iconic four. Those are the 2 big screen versions we've seen before. And there's actually a third version that was never released as part of a Roger Corman film from 1994. That was interesting. Apparently, the Thing's costume was designed by Stan Winston. It's tragic it didn't ever get a big screen relief. Yeah. But I think you can find like pirated versions of it online. I'm pretty sure on YouTube.
Yeah,
probably.
there's always stills like everywhere, and the 4 that were in that '94 film went to the premiere. Which is
I saw
really
that.
Cool.
That is super cool. Fantastic Four First Steps is directed by Matt Shakman, most known for a lot of TV directing, WandaVision and Game of Thrones most notably. And the film stars Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Richards, Ebon Moss-Backrack as Ben Grimm, and Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm. As I noted earlier, with the possible exception of Spider-Man Brand New Day starring Tom Holland hitting theaters next summer, this film, Fantastic Four, is the last movie on the MCU docket until Avengers Doomsday, which is currently scheduled to release December 18th, 2026. This film was budgeted at $200 million for production, and it opened number 1 at the box office on its opening weekend, grossing $118 million domestically in the U.S. and then another $100 million internationally. Didn't quite. Superman just edged out just a little bit by about $7 million. I mean, I'm pretty happy about that personally. But regardless, it did. So those are good numbers relative to the box office right now. Not necessarily top grossing Marvel film, but it is a solid down the middle hit.
Yeah.
So all that said,
it's an indication of the healing process is in
because we're not in the same environment that we were before COVID.
And I don't think we're ever going to get back to the momentum we had.
We can't afford eggs, guys.
No.
So I mean, I'm just saying. So
Can't afford
sorry.
eggs,
I'm
can't
sorry
afford
you didn't get
milk.
your $7 million. But
Yeah. Well, I still just sit and think about sometimes, can you believe, it's not about the quality of the movie. It's the fact that it was a character that had never been in a movie before. Like, Captain Marvel made over $1 billion, like in 2019.
Yeah.
And again, I actually like that movie. Not perfect, but it's good. But like, the fact that movie could come out never having any other Captain Marvel movie and make $1 billion is just bananas. So
Did
we
that
are
come
no
out
longer.
before or after Wonder Woman?
It was after Wonder Woman.
After Wonder Woman?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's also the first female Marvel superhero that's like getting her own, which I really think should have been Black Widow, but that's another story for another podcast.
Yep. Yeah. But even, I guess the point being, like, I use that as an example, but they basically could release any Marvel movie and it would make almost $1 billion for a while.
Versus Black Widow that they sent straight to Disney Plus and weren't able to make any money on that.
And Scarlett Johansson let them know that she was not happy about that and settled out of court. So, All right. Well, what did we all think of Fantastic Four First Steps? Laron Chapman, I'll start with you.
So I found this just utterly delightful. I really did think that this was like a nice little palate cleanser to all. And this has been happening since Thunderbolts, I'd say. Had zero interest in that. Walked away with that with something meaningful to chew on. And then I just gave my thoughts on Superman. And this felt like, like just a nice, wholesome, old-fashioned good time at the movies. It's so like unpretentiously like just lean and kind of not fussy. You know what I mean? The plotting's not convoluted. The characters I felt like they were all individually well drawn and they had a great chemistry working with each other. The production design is fantastic. Costuming is fantastic. Love the period kind of retro futuristic details that they kind of infused into this. I thought Vanessa Kirby was just fantastic as Sue Storm. She added a gravitas to this character that I don't think Jessica Alba, as pretty as she is, can do dramatically. And if you have been following Vanessa Kirby lately, she's shown up in a couple Mission Impossible movies. She got an Oscar nomination for Pieces of a Woman. I felt like she was perfectly cast here. And that score by is it Michael?
Yeah, Michael
Giacchino.
Michael, yes.
A+.
A+. That's my biggest takeaway is that I have that playing in my head as I'm going in the car driving back home. So this movie put a smile on my face. It's definitely not it's not grand and huge and big, but that's what I like about it. I like the simplicity of it. I like how it feels like its own kind of standalone thing that, as you mentioned before, like this could have been released anytime. It really wouldn't have really had like it just feels like a nice thing I could put on that while I know it's building and there's going to be connective tissue added to it, it doesn't feel like that. It's
like right now, you don't need to have seen literally anything. To watch this movie.
It feels like a great launching pad for a good first step, if you will.
Technically, the first film in the Marvel phase 6.
Okay.
Yeah, probably know that. So.
No, they had a good dynamic, and I left this with it like again not blown away, but just had a consistently pleasant time with it throughout. So minor gripes aside, I liked this quite a bit.
All right, Laron's very pro. Jada, what did you think of Fantastic Four First Steps?
I'm kind of in the same wheelhouse. I've been, anyone who knows me knows that I absolutely adore the Fantastic Four. They're some of my favorite Marvel characters. I discovered them through the 2004 film, just watching it on cable and then being like, oh, I really like these characters, and then reading Fantastic Four comics. So I feel like I really enjoyed, these are the most, I think, authentic portrayals of these characters that we've ever gotten on the big screen. Of course, there are like cartoon versions and stuff like that people can go and reference, but I feel like especially for Sue Storm, because Vanessa Kirby is absolutely phenomenal in this movie. She is the standout character role for me. To me personally, Sue Storm or Sue Richards is probably very underserved out of all four of them in the comics. Mostly just because a lot of the writers didn't really know what to do with her. They kind of sort of portray her as like the wife or the mother or, just someone that's just kind of there to sort of hold the group together. But I love that in this movie, she's a diplomat. She's, very well fleshed out and very tangible. She's got layers to her. She argues with her husband. She argues with her brother and her best friend. And, they've got flaws. I think that's something that I really enjoyed about this movie as well, is just the family dynamic.
Yeah.
Because Marvel's done a lot of found family very well. They've done a lot of like Guardians and Thunderbolts and things like that. But I feel like this is the first instance where we're seeing like this is a family team. And I just really enjoyed it. It's visually fantastic. It's also the most sci-fi, the most classic sci-fi
Oh,
that I think
definitely.
a superhero movie has been in a very long time, which I really enjoyed because I grew up watching 60s sci-fi shows, So this was just a really fun sort of thing where we can talk more about the production design later, but just like you look around the screen and then when they're walking through like Times Square and just the world and every single ad, every single like piece of clothing someone's wearing, every piece of technology that they use, it is all like original. You really have not seen anything like it before. I think this is probably the purest version of like the retrofuturism aesthetic that we've gotten in the last like 10 or 15 years. I think it's really great. I really liked this.
I couldn't tell you. I mean, it's a cool, distinct aesthetic. I couldn't tell you the last time I think I saw it in a movie, though.
Yeah.
It's been a hot minute or 5.
I mean,
10.
some people consider Don't Worry, Darling like a retrofuturism film, which I'm like, that's more retro than futurism.
Yeah.
It's just got a few things. But I haven't really seen anything that falls this
I forgot
far
that was a
into,
movie
like-
that existed.
so did everyone else. I feel like this is the one that's the most like, no, it's retrofuturism. Like you cannot mistake it for anything else. So I loved it.
Oh, excellent. 2 very, very pro voices on the podcast. Arthur Gordon, what did you think of Fantastic Four?
My wife wanted me to share that this was the real rebirth we needed this summer.
Yes.
I won't be the dissenting voice at this table. I really went for this one. From a very young age, when I was a kid, my mom showed me her and her brothers had recorded the old 60s Fantastic Four cartoon. So this was like a property I'd really kind of always had a fondness and affinity for since childhood. So I've always kind of wanted, so like to that point, like I've seen Josh Trank's Fantastic Four multiple times, kind of always hoping to glean something from that movie.
Multiple times?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And so like I do love these characters and I think they're really fun. And so that, and then my mom was also 60 sci-fi like Star Trek and Doctor Who and like all those things like were such a big part of my childhood. So like going into this, I tried not to get hyped up, but as like this week started, I was like getting very amped up when I started seeing reviews and I started kind of getting really buying into the marketing. And so, the aesthetic though, first and foremost, that retro futurist thing really just works for me. I mean, it's been through all the marketing and they just really nail it in the film itself.
Yeah.
The score, incredible, A+ score, just tremendous there. I love the cast. I really like Joseph Quinn here as well. I've seen him in a few things now, and he always kind of steals the show. Before I knew who he was, in Stranger Things, I loved Eddie there. And so like to see him popping up and his career growing, I really like Quinn quite a bit. It's fun to see Paul Walter Hauser, Sarah Niles. She's having a pretty good year too. For the Lasso fans, she's popped up several times this year in big movies.
Paul Walter Hauser, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect casting for Mole Man. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Natasha Lyonne is great. I'll come back to her in a second though. Visually, I agree. This looks stunning. I've struggled with the MCU for years now with their visuals and their VFX, and this one finally feels
New
or
fresh.
Yeah, in the right direction.
There's color. There's color.
Yeah, it's not flat. I know they did some practical stuff with Innocent in the suit for Galactus, and I think that helps a lot. Herbie is just adorable. Just an incredible little robot. So mixing the visual effects with the practical really sells that. As a foster parent, the kind of emotional core of this as a parent and child and everything that's going on in this movie really hit for us. So there's a lot of tears throughout the movie. Again, for various reasons. I got really misty in that opening montage because it was the Fantastic Four that my mom loved and that 60s sci-fi. And so that really hit because I think this is a movie she would have loved. So,
sure.
that really works for me. few minor qualms. You know, I wish we could have got a little bit more Natasha Lyonne. Like,
Yeah.
there's that. You mentioned James Gunn's ability to do a lot with very little with characters, and we could have used that here. I think. You know?
Yeah.
Some characters are served very well, but Ben Grimm's a great character, and we don't really get to do much with his.
Yeah.
I think he was the character who suffered the most from like just the shortened runtime.
Yeah. So, and obviously we'll probably have plenty of time to get more into that, you know, as these franchise grows or whatever. But that was sort of one of the, if I have qualms, it's something like that. There are a few moments probably in the third act too where some of the visual stuff starts to fall apart with some of the shots. But outside of that, I really went for this from the onset. I was hooked like a little kid. And I think that's something that's been missing very, very drastically from the MCU.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan.
Man, love to hear that. A lot of enthusiasm at the table. And I'm gonna echo most of that.
Keyword most.
Yeah, no, okay. Yeah, not to repeat too much that's been said already. But yes, the aesthetic is incredible. We mentioned the score. I just want to call it the score, though, because one of my biggest complaints of the MCU at large, other than the visual style, is also, I feel like, generally speaking, other than maybe the Avengers theme, because we've heard it so many times, I don't really think there's very many iconic scores to be found in any of the movies. They're usually pretty forgettable. This one, incredibly memorable. I mean, like, I could literally sing at the top of the show, playing in my head. It's great.
Yeah.
So I just want to, yes, and everything you guys said about that. I am less hot on Pedro Pascal. I was really concerned going into the movie with him as Mr. Fantastic. I think he does a mostly good job. There's just, it's not that he does a bad job. It's that he does an adequate job. And I just couldn't help but think there's other actors out there who I think could bring like that scientific, like the scientific geekiness, family man energy that, I don't know, something about Pedro Pascal. He's too hot. I don't know. Like, he does good. Like, he's not bad. It's
But
just
Reed Richards is also hot.
I mean, yeah, but he's also like, yeah. I mean, I don't anyway.
Not Pascal, but yes,
he's not. Whereas I feel like Vanessa Kirby, everyone else, I actually think is a home run. So, and I don't think again he's not bad, but I still, when I think Mr. Fantastic, I'm still not going to be like Pedro Pascal. That's the one. You know, it kind of landed as like he's fine. But I did really love Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm. I love that Johnny Storm, unlike the 2000s movies where he was literally just the comedic relief, actually does real work. A thing I really love about this movie that I think sets it apart from the MCU, but also just blockbusters in general. These people are using science and their intelligence to try to solve a world-ending problem. There's some more parallels. We'll get into spoilers, but there's definitely some climate change parallels. And it's like, how do we like engineer ourselves out of this? What can we do? And how do we like corral all of humanity to like work towards this greater goal when we use science and technology to help us do that. And I think that's one of the big perks of this like retrofuturism is it takes us back to a time, how we remember a time, thinking like the 60s, the space race, back when it seemed like, as we remember it, not saying this is how it actually was, but we remember this time when, America came together to try to build all this technology. We built the Space Needle. We launched the Jetsons. We did this whole space race thing, and it gave us all this technology that we now have turned into things that we all use every day. Like, it was a huge moment in history as we look back onto it. This movie sort of recreates that with that Jetsons aesthetic that I think, and it just really nails it. I did think some of the VFX, particularly all the practical stuff, is amazing. Just full stop. And I think more of the movie is done practically than not in terms of like what we're used to seeing in Marvel films. The stuff when you get to space gets a little touch and go for me, specifically in like the second act. I should say, I'm trying to figure out how to avoid spoilers. When we meet Galactus the first time, that whole area felt very kind of like, all right, we're on a soundstage right now. But basically anything on Earth I thought looked pretty top notch.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, this is weird because I said the same thing about Superman a couple weeks ago. I've been on this train like, why are movies so long? They need to be shorter. They need to be shorter. They need to be shorter. Yeah. And I still think that's true. However, in both Superman and this, I was like,
could have used 10
more minutes to give some more of these characters just a little bit more than Natasha Lyonne's subplot, I think, in particular. I'm like, there's a there. And, I read a little bit into, there was a ton of stuff that was cut from this movie. At one point, John Malkovich was a character totally excised from the movie.
He was in the trailers, right?
Red Ghost. They have his like army of like chimpanzees or monkeys.
They reference
in the opening credit, and
Yeah, the little post-credit stinger too.
yeah.
But also
they just completely cut him.
they completely cut him. I'm not mad because that tells me that he wasn't significant enough. That let's save him for something, another character. That's a
Sure.
bigger deal.
Because it's John Malkovich. You don't just not use him.
Exactly. But I say that to say, I feel like they probably found a lot of this movie in post-production. I think what we got was pretty good. I would say this is in terms of MCU standalone, it's the best one we've gotten in a very long time.
Yeah.
And it feels fresh. It feels like a throwback to Phase 1 when you are learning about Iron Man or Thor, and it's just these people, this family trying to solve this problem. It's self-contained, and that's sort of liberating in a sort of way. So overall, pretty positive. I don't think it's a resounding home run, but I also think that it's very good. And just like Superman, I think, with my gripe, Richards aside, I think in general gets the characters in a way that we haven't seen on the big screen before. And that's really like exciting and inspiring to see the family unit celebrated, solving problems in that way. So anyway, good movie. Good movie. Well, big question for you guys though. What do you think this is doing that really separates it from other entries in the MCU, especially lately?
I feel like, and we said this about Thunderbolts, I really do feel like it's that kind of self-contained, like here's a new story with these people where it just doesn't feel busy. You know what I mean? It does feel like it's kind of like this movie's zippy and it flies by. Like the pacing is really strong here. And I agree with you about the runtime. Weirdly, this one's under 2 hours, guys, which is wow.
I mean, I think 155 minutes.
Yeah, it's like just under 2 hours, and like you said, weirdly, and I know it's like the sentences we don't think we're. This is a new year. We're saying new things.
Short is not a way I would
making sense.
I would never describe an MCU film
about
as
a
short.
superhero movie. I'm asking for movies to be longer when I've been complaining about them being shorter. I don't know what's real anymore. But you know what? But definitely you just feel it there. And so, but I do feel like this was like a nice, just kind of like, you don't have to be a big fan of any of the things prior. It just works as like a gateway into what I hope is going to be a new wave of fresh, new, Marvel entries, and so, it's just, it's the simplicity of it. It's just so refreshing, and I realized that sometimes that's all you need. You just need a good cast, a good lean story. It doesn't have to be this, this huge existential thing that's happening. Those things are here, but not in a way that's just so labored over to the point where it's just like, okay, so.
I will take 10 more Ralph Ineson Galactus appearances, please.
Yeah.
Incredible. That's amazing casting
Are
right
we
there.
glad he's not a cloud?
Yo,
God.
yes, please, yeah.
He has weight and
Thank
texture
goodness
to
he's
him.
not a
Yeah.
cloud.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So, Jada, what do you think? How does this sort of set itself apart from past MCU entries?
I really enjoyed how they say like straight off, like right off the bat, and they even say it in like the marketing, like this is a different Earth. This is not connected to any of the other, stories, which helps with the quote unquote no homework aspect of the movie. Another thing that I really enjoy as well is all of our main characters are very intelligent. Like there's no one that's dumb just for comic reliefs. Like you said about Johnny Storm. Like I do respect the early 2000s Fantastic Four films for what they did just for the genre and getting the Fantastic Four in the public eye. And I love Chris Evans. He's a fantastic actor. However, his portrayal of Johnny Storm did kind of some irreversible damage on people's perception of him.
Yep.
They just have him as just this womanizing like guy who's, adrenaline junkie and all that sort of stuff, where Johnny Storm's a flight engineer. You don't just let anyone go up into space. He's smart. He has degrees.
Yeah.
And what I love is it's, Johnny Storm is a smart guy in a room of geniuses.
Yeah.
So whenever, this isn't like, and I'm not going to get too much into spoilers, but there are moments where he's like, hey guys, I have something. And they're like, hold on, we're working out this equation. And like, I was like, I really enjoy and then, there's a plot point that he has specifically that as a linguist, I had to really turn off my brain for it. I had to really suspend my disbelief just because I was like, that's not a thing. We can talk more about it in our spoiler discussion, but just the fact that they had him be intelligent enough to do the thing that is actually impossible to do in real life and not just, be like, hey, I'm attracted to the alien. I'm going to go and seduce her, or I'm going to, go off and, because he is a hothead, yes, and he makes impulsive decisions, but he's also just as intelligent as the other 3 members of the team. Like, he is included on that original space mission for a reason.
I think this portrayal of Johnny he is impulsive, hot-headed, but traditionally the movies have correlated that with just egotistical or cocky.
Oh, yeah,
And I think
absolutely.
that's the refreshing thing here is like,
Mhm.
yeah, he's still impulsive, but
Yeah.
it's to save his family or it's to do something else and
Yeah.
react that way. And I love that.
The
about
first
him.
time we ever see him fully in a full scene is him trying to just get an appointment with Reed, like just
Mhm.
try and talk with him. And you can see he has just like little ticks of like an insecurity of like trying to speak with him because Reed is like the smartest man on the planet, no
Mhm.
doubt. And it's, because I just really enjoyed his portrayal in this one.
There's definitely a different version of this, far lesser version of this movie where Reed is incredibly smart and everyone around him seems very dumb.
Yeah, we didn't really get any like in English, please,
Right.
like
Yeah.
moments.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Because as you point out, and it is true, the Fantastic Four is that they are all crazy, ridiculously smart and
Yeah.
talented. He just happens to be the leader of the group. That's a great call out. Arthur, anything you want to add about how this film sets itself apart?
Well, I think it's just the energy and the charm, and Laron's mentioned just the fresh about this movie, and I think that's, for me, the big part that's been missing from the MCU is it just feels kind of
Stale.
fun and exciting and sets itself apart. And I think it pairs very well with Superman because of that. I feel they have this very similar kind of aesthetic. My co-host on the GenreCast, Dustin Sells, he's been thinking a lot about Superman and this the aesthetic of earnestness that he's been reading about, and he's wanting to do something with that. And I think that's here as well, like this vision of this tomorrow vibe and this utopian world and this world of tomorrow that comes together here. It just is uplifting in a really big way that I think has kind of been absent in a lot of, films. And the positive portrayals of these characters that they've spoken to. But, even with like something like Guardians, I love that. And I love how everybody comes together, but it's still very snarky and kind of cynical at times. And this isn't that. Like it's got comedy, it's got humor, but it doesn't feel like that. And
it does not have. It does definitely does not have the classic MCU wink wink at all.
The Whedon kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was surprised by how serious this movie is.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I thought, like, because Pedro Pascal was like, oh, yeah, I originally tried, like, acting with, like, a transatlantic accent. And then they were like, dial it back, dude. It's a little bit much. And I was like, okay, that's a kind of a weird choice. Like, I feel like it'd be a really cool, like, comedic thing for him to just speak with a transatlantic accent, even in just, like, one scene. But I was like, oh, everyone's kind of like, yeah, they make, like, funny lines, like people need comedy, but it wasn't a joke fest. It wasn't overly like, as soon as Galactus comes in, it's like business start to finish.
And then it's just kind of nice not to have to rely on 18 years of movie and TV knowledge to enjoy this and just we're in another world and let's go with it. And I love that.
Like the only again, I'm not a diehard in the womb, watched all the things obsessively fan with Fantastic Four. I do like them and what I've seen before. But the only major Easter egg thing was just the reference that it's clobbering time, which they even worked into this version of the fiction. So it didn't even feel like you needed that knowledge.
When they didn't have Johnny say flame on a single time during the entire movie, I was like, guys, you can't just have one quote, not the other.
Say it. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to add other than I can't think of the last time I saw an MCU movie and said that looks good. And
even if it's just a scene or a moment,
right?
Like, oh, this sequence is super nice,
super cool. I mean, I guess Black Panther when they get to Wakanda the first time is pretty rad.
I think that's the last time that a movie has been purposefully stylized.
Right.
Like this is the most stylistic movie we've had since Black Panther.
Yeah,
which is really wonderful.
It is wonderful. It's like letting a director just kind of put his own spin on it, and so I love that. And I don't know, Arthur, you kind of hit on something there, and you guys, here's retrofuturism. You guys remember? You guys remember Tomorrowland?
Oh gosh,
a movie that I so truthfully admired what it was trying to do. It just so poorly executed on it and felt very preachy. I feel like, yes, this is sort of actually executing on that idea, and Superman executing on like guys, the world doesn't have to burn down.
Yeah.
We can actually make the world better.
Mhm.
Here's a vision for a better future without being like, we don't have to be all doom and gloom, kids. It's it's just you just tell a compelling story about people doing that do have optimism and do believe in science and are trying to help collectively other people actually doing it. So, yeah, not much more to say. I think you nailed it, but that's something I was like, I think the last time I saw retrofuturism probably was Tomorrowland, and that was a huge flop, and this movie does the idea so much better. Well, anything else? I've already kind of complained about my Pedro Pascal. You guys pretty good with the cast? Any other notable qualms, brags you want to throw out there?
I have an argument for why Pedro Pascal is a good Reed Richards, but we can't talk about it until the spoilers.
Till
So we're
spoilers?
gonna
Okay.
we're gonna put a pin in it. But I just want to put on the record, I never doubted Joseph Quinn for a goddamn second. I knew he was gonna kill that role as soon as they announced it. I was like, yes. But I'm kind of in the minority, it seems, in this room a little bit. I think the movie was way too short. Or maybe I just need a director's cut. I don't know. I kind of want to see what ended up on the cutting room floor, just because I feel like. And I also feel like Johnny and Ben were both given the back seat a little bit in this movie. As much as they did with Johnny's character, I feel like there are things that we are missing where, again, not getting into spoilers, where I feel like there are moments where I'm like, okay, it feels like this is supposed to be a big payoff, but he only talked about this once. I feel like we're missing a couple of
with his
extra-
subplot?
with his subplot right there. I really loved Eben Moss-Backrack as
Ben Grimm.
Ben.
Yeah.
He is fantastic. They're in their fourth year of being superheroes, and a lot of Ben Grimm's characterization, at least in the comics, is he hates the fact that he is a giant rock, that he can't really have a normal day because everyone's staring at him. He can't, he has this super strength. He hates that about himself. And maybe in the first 4 years, he's kind of learned to live with it a little bit, but there's just this slightest little hints of sadness and just and melancholy and longing through Eben's performance that you can kind of really see, especially in his scenes with Natasha Lyonne's character, who we will again discuss in the spoilers. But I really, really enjoyed his work. I think the CG that they did on the thing was pretty okay up until I think in
It's
parts
the best
of,
it's been.
Yeah,
It
in
is the
parts
best
of
it's
the
been,
parts of
yeah.
the second act and parts of the third act, I was like, okay, some points are a little bit wonky on certain movements for him, but that's it. You're trying to make a rock man. That's kind of hard. You don't
Yeah.
have a real life reference for that.
There were a couple moments where just
The beard actually worked for me.
yeah, I think
I was like,
The
look,
beard is funny.
I was like,
the
just stick
beard
with that.
implies some interesting things about the anatomy of the thing that we need to reckon with at some point.
Because I'm like, does he shave the rest of his body?
Exactly.
Or is
Yeah,
it
my
just-
mind is like,
How
Does
does
all the
one
plumbing
shave
work?
rock? I mean, I guess he gets a
He
big.
had,
he had
like,
a
little-
grinder.
He had a
Oh,
grinder,
yeah.
like a sander thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when they started conserving power.
Oh, that's right.
it goes
Yeah.
out, yeah. But there's a couple moments where he's talking and it doesn't quite match. I think the
Yeah.
voiceover on it, but
Oh, does anyone want to talk about Julia Garner?
That was my next point. Was we haven't even mentioned the Silver Surfer, Julia Garner, yet. I really thought she was great.
I liked her.
I thought she was great casting, and I thought they actually made the Super Surfer look super badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
scene where, well, we won't spoil it, but the Silver Surfer does a cool thing in space. Okay,
He surfs.
in space.
She surfs.
Is
That's
the
cool.
surfboard part of her body? We still don't know.
Instead of just
whole
floating.
scene in
sequence
it,
is
6.
fun.
Instead of just floating straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, I think she's fantastic.
Yeah.
They made a really good case for why it's Shalabal and not Norrin Rad in this movie. And I really am so happy with that choice that they made.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Shalabal is not a character I was familiar with outside of name. So,
Yeah.
I know Norrin Rad and kind of his backstory, but to
Mhm.
see this, I thought, tied it together. Very smart.
So that's two different Silver Surfers.
yes.
Yeah.
So in the comics, Norrin Rad is typically the Silver Surfer. Shalabal in comics canon, she's only shown up a few times, but she is previously established, is the wife of Norn Rad, and she volunteers to be the surfer in his place as the herald. So it's kind of an interesting sort of dynamic of in like alternate, realities or in the alternate universes where she's the one that's like, I'm going to be the herald. I'm going to take I'm going to save my planet. And they add a little bit more to her in this movie, which I also really love. So, yeah.
I was a fan.
Cool. Yeah, Laron, Silver Surfer takes here.
Well, I'm always going to champion Julia Garner ever since Ozark. I mean, we're getting ready to review Weapons, but I mean, if you haven't seen Ozark, watch that show. Ruth is an iconic television character.
Unless it's the Wolfman, but that's not her fault.
Yeah, not her fault. Absolutely not her fault. Agree with that. No, I think she was great. I will say, also one of the characters like Natasha Lyonne that I just wish got more screen time. I think that they do a lot with what they have, at least to intrigue us and say that I like this character, I want more of it. But I do think that 10, 15 extra minutes could have been applied to both of these characters and given us a little bit more to do with them. But like I said, the performers themselves are gleaning a lot from the material. So yeah, I think Julia Garner's great. Yeah.
I think she has the most like emotional, like
I think so,
resonance
for sure.
within the story.
Yeah.
Her and Johnny Storm. Johnny Storm gets that. We won't spoil it. There's a moment at the end of the movie where I was like, "Oh, is he making me misty-eyed over here?" It's good
they
stuff.
had so many. They had me going, "Oh, well, are they going to do it?" Like so many times during this.
Well,
does
it
that
did
work?
feel like it was fair game. You're like, "Well, this is a new.
It's
new
a separate
version,
universe. They could always,
Yeah,
He's bringing that fire.
yeah. I don't have. You guys have all said it all. I think it was again. We'll discuss Pedro Pascal. And by the way, I'm not saying. I just want to be very clear. I do not think he is bad. It's more just I'm wanting a level of like almost borderline sew up his own ass. He's not quite an asshole, but like maybe just a smidge an asshole.
Yeah, okay.
By the more you get
Would you rather have had Krasinski?
No,
absolutely.
No. He's
No.
too not Krasinski. I didn't like him either.
Don't let the internet bros win.
no. Like if you were to ask me who though, that's the thing. I couldn't put my finger on it. I'd have to like really sit and think and go through a list. But like,
I think the great thing with the rest of the cast is they're not names like Pedro Pascal.
Right.
And I think maybe having somebody without
Michael
a name.
Fassbender?
maybe Fassbender,
Yeah.
but he's already been Magneto. I know it's in the universe. I don't know.
Yeah.
No. And I
But
told
Michael
Laron-
Fassbender.
He's been David, and so I mean he has that robotic scientific.
Guy Pearce 25 years ago. There you go.
Okay.
You know,
Not now.
Th-
but
then
yes.
that's
not
probably
brutalist guy.
No, he's way too old now. He's aged out of that one. Hey, Trim Birdie, no, don't pick him either, please. I do agree with the Ben Grimm stuff. I guess I thought Johnny Storm stuff was adequate enough. But Ben Grimm, I felt like he was on the sidelines just so much, and that subplot, I was like, so what am I supposed to take from this? I have two actors that I love doing scenes together, and I feel like I was waiting for it to like amount to a moment, and I never really felt like it hit that.
Yeah,
So
it feels like they were cut in the edit. Like they were kind of diminished in the edit. I kind of liken this movie a little bit to, you have a friend that went to the barbershop and they come back and you're like, whoa, your hair looks really great. And then you go up and you start to look at it and they start to mess with it. And then there's just like little pieces missing throughout. And because it's like, oh, overall, it's really great. But you start to look at the finer details and you're like, wait a second.
I've had that experience. It's called supercuts.
Oh, man. Well, let's get to letter grades, shall we? What letter grade would we give Fantastic Four First Steps, Arthur Gordon?
I'm coming in an A on this one. I really am a sucker for it. So easy A there. It's the first MCU movie, especially in a long time, I see myself going back to over and over again. I really loved it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. Rewatching a rewatchable MCU film, what's that like? Oh, man.
All of Phase 1.
Yeah.
That's
Remember
it.
when I
And
saw
the Guardians.
Early
Guardians.
2000s.
I saw the Avengers one like 18 times probably, and you're like, I haven't done that in a while.
I rewatched the first Avengers a few weeks ago, and I was like, I love how simplistic this feels compared to because I had just watched what was it, Guardians 3, and I was like, Avengers feels so like mellow and low to the ground compared to the wild shit that happens in Guardians 3, which is crazy because at the time everyone was like, this is like bombastic, this is crazy, you can never pull this off. Right. And then it ends up like in hindsight, it's very tame
Mhm.
in comparison to what we have now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
100%.
I just have a new appreciation for the Phase 1 films.
Yes, they were scrappier for sure, but that's also part of the charm.
Yeah.
Right.
Jada, what letter grade would you give Fantastic Four?
I surprisingly, with how much I love this movie, I'm giving it an A-. My sort of little gripes that I have with it, again, in the spoilers, I really love this film. I just feel like it's a little bit too chopped up. Again, we can get into that in the spoilers, but I'm very interested to see what I notice on the second watch. I thought about going to see it again before this, but I was like, nah, I feel like I need to let it simmer more.
They percolate.
Yeah.
I would rewatch this one again,
Mhm.
which I haven't said in quite a while, but I
Yeah.
feel like there's enough I missed there that I would like to take a closer look at for sure.
Yeah.
LaRon Chapman, what letter grade would you give the film?
Interestingly, I am the same. Like I had a really good time with this. I would rewatch it. It has like I said, there's a coziness to it that, that makes it easily rewatchable and enjoyable. But I'm gonna go down just slightly below you. I'm gonna say a B plus for this. I think that I saved my A tier for my winter soldiers and my, like like the ones that like hard hitting, like I'm thinking about them and they
Quantumania.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to those lovers, we see you.
Thor: The Dark World. Yeah.
Or Love and Thunder.
Yes. So it has to reverberate in a deeper way. And for me, this is just like pure pleasure for me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, so in that regard, I think it's simplistic and it's fun and it's easy to put back on. But yeah, it's not perfect. But yeah, B plus, solidly B plus. Enjoyed it quite a bit.
Solidly B plus. I'm gonna go solidly B down the middle. I still
A to B.
A to B.
We're in a gradient here.
I mean, like,
I love
again,
that.
I think I'm slightly cooler on it than you guys, but not by much. Like, I had a great time. It is rewatchable. There's so
Yeah.
much to love about it.
It's by no means a bad movie.
No,
Just
no. Yeah, but so I'm like, I think on Letterboxd I was like 3.5 out of 5 because I'm saving the 4-star. Whereas, not to pick fights here because the ecosystem hasn't been healthy enough for me to do this in a while. But I did like Superman more than this, and I give that one 4
I
stars.
saw your ratings
and
and I started sharpening my knife.
But hey, listen, if we get back to a healthy ecosystem where both studios are making good enough movies that I can compare them and like feel good about it, that's going to be. I can't wait for the day. Can't wait for the day. What other things would we recommend to people who like the Fantastic Four? That could be a film, television, novel, what have you. LaRon, I'll throw it back to you.
I'll give you 2 recommendations. The one would be like I don't watch any of the television shows pretty much whatsoever,
Except for Secret Invasion, right?
except for except
The
for
best
that
one.
Yes,
The best one.
absolutely. I really haven't, but the one that I have watched that I actually think molds really, pairs really well with this one is WandaVision. I feel like WandaVision is the one I've viewed where I'm like, even if I don't care about any of this, like this has its own, again, self-contained pleasures that don't hinge on me knowing everything and knowing all the details and all the cues and all that. It has a really moving internal story, characters that you like, and an aesthetic that's just so fun to look at. So
Incredible gimmick too.
yeah, exactly.
Different genre per
Exactly.
decade. So
Yeah.
so cool.
So the fact that I'm assuming we said in the show notes that there's a connection there, right? Like
yeah. Chapman also directed every episode
Okay,
of WandaVision.
so that makes
Yeah.
sense. That it makes sense. There's something that I'm gleaning here that I liked about both of those properties. And then also animated film reminds me a lot of the Incredibles. Like it has that family
The
dynamic.
Incredibles definitely did Fantastic Four.
It's
first.
literally an animated The Incredibles.
Yeah.
I saw like a tweet where someone was like, like Fantastic Four out of context, and
Down to the
then
stretchy.
they
and
had a picture of the Underminer, and I'm like, wait till you find out who inspired him.
Yeah. There's even a Franklin, if you want to be real, in that one too. So yeah, I feel like the original, not the sequel. I don't.
The sequel's fine.
The sequel's fine.
Not as good as the original.
I
but
forget
yeah.
it, but the first one still, it has the vibes of that fun. It's a good action film. It's also it has a nice, wholesome family dynamic. That's enjoyable.
Also, it roasts fanboys is a bad thing for our culture. And I
Yes.
think it was ahead of the curve.
I am not associated with you.
Great recommends there. Arthur Gordon, what would you recommend to listeners?
So one of the things I didn't touch on earlier, but I'm really a sucker for a film that not only evokes like an earlier period as a period piece, but also the filmmaking of the era it is set in. And I think this does that very well. So with that in mind, the first one I always kind of go to as an example of this is The Conjuring, which really does kind of evoke a new Hollywood feel from the camera work. And I think First Omen does this really well as well. It has a lot of that dread and evoke through its camera work that is very reminiscent of the 70s in New Hollywood. Carol is another movie that kind of does this very well. Shooting on Super 16, it looks incredible. Spielberg recalls Saul Bass in the 60s in a big way with Catch Me If You Can. And then finally, I would throw out The Artist, captures it and incorporates a lot of visual elements to present the artist as though it was made in an earlier period. Beyond going beyond just silent and black and white, there are other techniques being used that really evoke that period. So that's what I would go with.
That is a great list of recommendations. I love the angle there, man. Again, also speaks to what this film does right. Jada, what would you recommend?
Before I get on to mine, Laron, I'm just going to add on to yours just a little bit. I feel like the Loki show also is just as stylistic and great. The production designer and set decorator, oh my goodness, I have their names right here.
And Arthur Gordon is wearing the Loki shirt for viewers who can't see.
So Kasra Farahani, who's the production designer, and Jill Aziz, who's the set decorator, they both worked on the Loki show, and they were the production designer and set decorator for this film.
Okay.
So they very much did, because the people who don't really know Loki that well, it's set in this place called the Time Variance Authority, and it is very retro-futuristic in its design, like every single bit of it. Like, it's very futuristic technology that all looks frozen in the 60s, which is really cool. But I feel like if you haven't watched that yet, you should definitely give it a watch.
That's the one I should.
And it has, I was going to say, it has Owen Wilson, Wunmi, oh my goodness, what's her last name? The woman from Sinners and Lovecraft County.
Wunmi,
she's in it. It's a really great show. If you haven't watched it, you should definitely do that.
I have heard good things about Loki.
Season 1's a lot better than season 2.
What? I disagree, but it's okay. It's fine.
That's right. It's all right.
We don't have time to hash it out.
Yeah, season 2's not bad. You know.
Yes. Okay. So, back to my recommendations. So, thank you for taking my choice of The Incredibles. So I'm going to go with my other ones because I had backups. I had feelings that people were
prepared.
Yes. So, I have two different TV series. Obviously, the original Star Trek series. That is like the quintessential sci-fi retrofuturistic series. It is extremely corny. So anyone that loves Superman and Fantastic Four, you're gonna have a great time.
They lay on the cheese.
Yes, there's
My dad
lots
loved
of
that show, man.
Yeah, they put a lot of emphasis on the science in science fiction. They love to figure out things scientifically instead of more like sci-fi fantasy, which is what a lot of people think of sci-fi now. Fantastic casts, wonderful storylines, wonderful themes and motifs. My other TV show is a more recent one. It is a TV show on Apple TV Plus. It is called For All Mankind.
I've heard great things.
Yeah, it is basically a space age retrofuturistic show that is set in an alternate history where the space race basically never stopped. And the Soviets ended up being the first people to land people on the moon instead of the US. So it's basically just kind of the fallout from that, and it takes place over right now 4 different decades. It starts off okay. And then as you get further into the new seasons, it's almost like an anthology, but not really. Because, with each new decade, you get new characters. The 4th season is absolutely fantastic. It is probably one of the best that they've done so far. Apple does really great television and movies. Like,
they
it's
do.
Kind of surprising. They've kind of been the
Their
underdog.
output isn't like vast, but what they put out is good.
They also
mostly
don't market as well as they should, which I feel is
weird.
to their detriment because they have amazing shows. But yeah, I just feel like that is a really great show. Just kind of set in the same sort of climate. Anyone who wants to focus on like science and, it journey into space and, the possibility of, mankind being obsessed with space travel way past the 70s. And then my last one is going to be a comic recommendation. I'm going to recommend not the Fantastic Four First Steps tie-in comic, which you should definitely read, but Fantastic Four number 262. It is the Trial of Reed Richards, which came out in 1983. It is written and illustrated by John Byrne, who's done some stuff for Uncanny X-Men, Sensational She-Hulk, Giant-Sized Dracula. He's a pretty prominent illustrator and comic writer. So basically, in a previous issue, the Fantastic Four are battling Galactus, and Reed Richards is at the point where he can kill Galactus if he wants to, but he chooses not to, and he lets Galactus live and, continue to go on and devour worlds. And basically, the what's called the Galactic Tribunal kidnap Reed Richards and put him on trial for the death and destruction that is to come because he didn't kill Galactus. And basically, it's this very large, like, philosophical, almost courtroom drama, which is pretty cool.
I like it.
Where they talk about, like, you have decided not to take this life, and because of that, billions of other lives and universes are going to be lost because of you. And they have appearances from Uatu the Watcher, which is really great. People like Odin show up to, like, testify. They basically have, like, other Marvel characters sort of drop in and then testify either for or against Reed Richards. It's just, I think it's a really great sort of philosophical issue that makes you really think about, like, the consequences of the actions of a hero, sort of on a cosmic level, which is pretty cool. So
Yeah.
Cool recommend.
it's an interesting read if you want to. I think it's just like a 12 or 13 issue run, but it's pretty cool.
So that was Fantastic Four number what?
262.
262.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, if you need the comics recommendation, that'll do it. I don't have. I had Incredibles down here as well. I'm gonna go for a weirder one, deeper cut. Family bonding together to solve a problem through
Don't
science.
Say it. Oh, I was gonna say, don't say it. So go.
Meet the Robinsons. No one remembers. No one remembers this movie from Disney.
Yeah.
It was actually a really great family film.
Yeah.
Again, it sort of highlights how sometimes family drama can, how family is a tenuous thing. You all love each other, but oftentimes you hurt each other, and how those actions have consequences. But how also, on the other side of the coin, that when you work together, you can do tremendous things together as a family unit. So really like that one. Not enough people have seen it, and I already mentioned it, The Martian.
Yeah.
I think one of Ridley Scott's last actually great films, even though I've liked a few of his other films since then. This is the one I was like, no, this is an all-timer. Also, I hate to make us feel old, but this movie just turned 10 in 2015. So it feels like that was just a couple of years ago, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, so, 10 years old, you could almost say it's you could put in the classic category. Matt Damon's The Martian.
Good genre, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. And we've got the next book from Weir being adapted in the Ryan Gosling film.
Hail Mary.
Yeah, Hail Mary. So we'll see how that goes. But those would be my recommendations.
I feel like Tomorrowland, the movie, should have been Meet the Robinsons.
Yes.
Like
100%.
Yeah.
I feel like if they had just said Tomorrowland instead of Meet the Robinsons, it would have been.
Yeah.
I would have been like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah. Tomorrowland, I admire it so much. Too bad it was a tremendous flop and I don't think Brad Bird ever recovered, frankly. Because
not even Incredibles 2 could really save
no,
him.
he did Incredibles 2, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think he's taken another shot at live action since then.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't blame him.
Yeah. Well, with that said, listeners, we're going to jump into spoilers for Fantastic Four. So if you don't want to be spoiled, go ahead and tune out now.
What are you doing? Johnny, no!
Come on! Flame on!
I'll kick things off by talking a little bit about Galactus and destroyer of worlds, consumer of worlds, standing for climate change. I don't know. It's what it seemed like to me. The film's main foe, Galactus, a godlike being who consumes planets. After the Fantastic Four confront him in the second act of the movie, they return to Earth to inform the citizens of Earth that Galactus is not dead and that he is still coming. Much like the winds of winter and Blade, he is still coming. The movie then shifts gears and focuses on the team's plan to unite humanity together to stop the impending doom of Galactus, which, for me, it reads a little bit like, hey, there's this thing. We all know it's coming. The scientists say it's coming and it wasn't stopped, so we've got to, figure out a plan for do it. And it's just the way the movie constantly checks in on, guys, Galactus is at Jupiter. Galactus is at Mars. Galactus is flying over the moon. It's just okay, it's, that just omnipresent threat that is about to just crush you.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a bit of a, climate change read there, but I'd be curious what you guys thought. Arthur, what is sort of your read on Galactus here?
I think, on the surface, is a very straightforward antagonist. He seeks to eat, no matter the cost, for whatever's in his way. And now in the movie, he sees this way out because of Franklin. Galactus is an ancient, powerful being who finally sees that opportunity for a reprieve. But there's that inevitability to him that you kind of speak to, we're not getting past this thing. And that makes him super frightening. And I think he's maybe one of my new favorite villains in the MCU.
100%.
I think he's so cool, and Innocent's great here. And that they managed to realize him in such a powerful way is impressive to scale and scope. And when he kind of starts coming out of the water like a Godzilla, that's so fun. But I think Galactus itself can represent climate stuff, but he is oblique enough that he can represent the parenting anxieties or large-scale social turmoil or whatever he needs to represent for the story. And so I think that's very helpful to keep him sort of blank enough that you can do a lot with him and make the text kind of go in a lot of different ways. And I think that's really interesting use of him.
You mentioned this here, and I didn't mention this in the spoiler, but yeah, we find out that what he is really after is he wants Franklin, they're at this point, unborn baby of Reed and Sue Richards, again, as you said, sort of as his exit strategy. Finally, I can be relieved of this desire to eat things, which is...
I'm still looking for my Franklin.
I still crave pizza, I'll tell you what. What is your read on that Franklin Richards bit, though? I really don't know what to make of it. Hey, this kid's... I think there's the MCU Franklin, which I have a lot of ideas about. In terms of the context of this movie, Galactus wants Franklin. It's almost by sacrificing your first child, you could end climate change, you could end social turmoil, just by doing a trade. But our heroes are unwilling to do that. And the parenting anxiety, I think you kind of hit on.
I think that because if I remember this correctly, Galactus says that he is destined to inherit my position. So I feel like that is almost a motif for the next generation is set to inherit all of this doom and gloom because of the effects of climate change. So just give them up, and then you can save yourselves. I think it's almost like in a literal sense, because yes, Galactus does have, reasons for getting Franklin, because that's his, Franklin Richards literally just can create multiverses, and that's just one of his innate powers. But I feel like on a thematic level, it's definitely, I feel like, speaking to wanting to not think about the future generations in order to save the people that are there right now, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But for me personally, in terms of Galactus, I think that Galactus, while he is a very threatening and terrifying character, oh my goodness, I've not been that frightened by a villain in a movie in a very long time.
Like how his eyes change.
Yeah.
Cow.
Yeah. And then you kind of see him worrying and parts of him sort of, collect dusting off, which is giant boulders. But I feel like in the more important thing that people should be paying attention to is humanity's response to it. I feel like I feel like Fantastic Four First Steps as a film, its tether is Don't Look Up. Because in that movie, everyone's told point blank, hey, there's an asteroid that's coming to kill all of us. And then humanity immediately falls apart and there's chaos everywhere. No one has any sort of order. They do the opposite in this movie, where everyone listens to the scientist with the degrees and knowledge and says, hey, we're going to listen to you and we're going to make the world a better place. We're going to try and save all of us. We're not going to make this into a regions or divisions type thing. We're going to work together as one and try and save everyone, which was very refreshing. I feel like a lot of people will not get that reference.
Yeah, I don't think so either, unfortunately. But I think you're right, though. I think what's more important is the humans' response. And this this version of Earth, Laron.
Yeah, I mean, Galactus has always been a character, at least as it's been depicted in other versions of this.
The Cloud. Were you surprised to learn that he was actually like an entity, not a cloud?
That is surprising, yes. And
he is a humanoid
so I've
figure.
never taken this character seriously. It's never had weight to me, literally, in clouds. But I just feel like the visualization of it here is so palpable and menacing, and when you think about it as a more existential thing, like it being about climate change or about that, then these bigger ideas, and it becomes a much more interesting character for me. As far as Franklin goes, as you mentioned, you guys have alluded to it, but I feel like Franklin kind of represents humanity in many ways, because there's now this interesting catalyst, or this interesting conflict that everyone's having to reconcile with, like, where, well, if you just do this thing, then you save all these people, but we're not acknowledging the sacrifice that comes with that, and it makes everyone lose a little bit of their humanity. Like, well, just kill the baby so that you save more people. I know it's yours, but there's more people to think about. And I feel like these are conversations that happen in our politics in certain ways. Like, is it worth sacrificing children in Gaza or whatever like that? Like, if we get the things we need over here, and that's the debate we're having internally with ourselves, and it's a very necessary one to be having right now. And so, in some ways, I feel like the purifying of this infant, this innocent that has nothing, can't at this stage at least, can't fend for itself. Like, it's up to us to kind of sustain that humanity and preserve it. So by saving this child, in many ways, we're saving our own moral compass in many different ways. So that was kind of my read on how Franklin's being used in this particular story.
But yeah, it represents the next generation. Are you willing to trade the next generation as a symbol to save yourselves now?
Yeah.
Or
because if they had just done that, then all of a sudden, that opens the door for what else are you willing to give up?
But then you're also they would have been sacrificing their future, like their bloodline.
Exactly. Exactly. So
I feel like my absolute favorite line in the film kind of perfectly sums up the moral implications and the thought process of it, is when Sue is out with a 3-month-old Franklin and talking to this crowd of people. First of all, I was like, girl, why are you taking that baby out there?
They just said that.
They're gonna grab him and
mob you.
But whenever she's making her speech and she says, I will not sacrifice my son for this world, but I will not sacrifice this world for my son. I feel like that is very much like she recognizes everyone's qualms and quandaries with, the decision that they're having to make, but she's also recognizing, that, hey, we're a family, but also we all are a family. I feel like
we have to come together and do this together. It can't just be,
exactly. No, that line stuck with me for a really long time, just because I was like, that is the most perfect thing that she could have said in that moment.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are kind of hitting on something here too, or Jada talking about how, they bring people together. I think what makes this setting, this retro futuristic, perfect for this story is, again, you're going back to the space race. The mindset is, we did trust scientists. Culturally, we did trust and celebrate scientists to solve impossible problems. And this is like, what if there was a world where that just stayed that way? Like, scientists were the celebrities. They were also the ones everyone looked to help. Oh gosh, the world's in danger. The scientists will work out a solution, and if we just listen to them, we can help push it back. Like, I don't know. I liked this version of Earth. Felt particularly perfect way to encapsulate that feeling quite a bit. It's Earth 828. What was your take on Earth 828, Arthur?
Yeah, I kind of agree. The utopia that has, I mean, from the onset of the film, it almost already is feeling very utopic, right? And there are crimes and there are criminals and mole men. But even with the mole man, like because of Sue's capability as a leader and a peacekeeper, is able to integrate him into society, and like that's all really cool. So again, establishing this world that is very hope filled and very joyous in I think a lot of ways, and the idea of one of the things I think it does in tapping into that retrofuturism, but also the sci-fi of the 50s or of the 60s is it is science forward. And, the idea of the Fantastic Four is they're still scientists first and foremost. Like, yeah, they've all got like demigod powers, but they're still going to try to solve it with research and books. And I think that's inspiring and exciting and something that's missing drastically from just a lot of superhero and action movies in general across the board. And, science has become, unfortunately, a dirty word in a lot of circles in our current climate. And this is just refreshing, I think, in a lot of ways. And so I like that. And I think that utopian world also sort of helps provide a nice canvas again for the impending doom of whatever the antagonist is and whatever Galactus represents. They kind of provide the mirror foundation for that read of it. And I think that's clever in its storytelling. And again, it's going back to a sort of genre that's kind of been forsaken in the last 30, 40 years, like to go back into this sort of world of tomorrow sci-fi stuff that we don't get to see as often anymore, which really helps.
Yeah. I mean, even Star Trek has leaned a lot more into science fiction fantasy than actual science fiction. Yeah. Jada, what was your take on Earth 828?
First of all, I love that the numbering of the Earth is after Jack Kirby's birthday. That
was such a great reveal in the credits.
That was so wonderful. I feel like that's such a great nod and homage to him, just because, I mean, Fantastic Four are his, like that's his, the design for the Thing in this movie is Jack Kirby's original design for the Thing, which was fantastic, beard aside. But I personally love the, like Arthur said, the oh gosh, what's the word for it? The optimism and the idealism of that world. They don't even tell us specifically what year they're in. We don't even know if they're in 1964, if they're in 2025, 2026, 2027, whatever. But I just love on top of, I think the visuals definitely help a lot. I feel like we also really get a chance to get into some of the things that were a strength, I think, to the like early Spider-Man films, the like Blade films, all of the early non-connected Marvel films that weren't under Marvel Studios, is that because they're on a separate planet, on a separate Earth, where the Fantastic Four are seemingly the only superheroes around, besides, and like only superpowered beings besides, I guess, their rogues gallery that they introduced. They, have obviously Mole Man, Red Ghost. They also introduced like Puppet Master, the Wizard, and Diablo. They don't have the chance or the opportunity or the, here's a cameo from superhero A, B, or C.
Right.
They're on their own, essentially. And because if this was put on, the sacred timeline, as many people call it now, this would have been an Avengers movie, because Galactus is an Avengers level threat. If they had been in a universe where, we had all of our established Avengers characters and everyone else, Eternals and other sorts of things, it would have had to be an Avengers movie. So I feel like the fact of them putting them on a separate Earth was a very smart choice. And it also doesn't limit them to the sacred timeline and the things that happen on that for future iterations of these characters. So
Yet.
We'll see. We got Secret Wars to get through. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, on that note, Laron, anything else you want to add about 828?
I mean, I echo what everyone's saying. I feel like it just trims the fat in many ways. Like this, the idea of this being the first steps, the idea of this feeling self-contained, it gives it its own, like, okay, let's start again. Let's start fresh here in this space. And so with all the interconnectedness sort of being there, it works that this is its own planet with its own issues, and here are the superheroes that are going to help us with the conflicts that arise here. Now, it can get muddy if we keep going down, if we keep piling on and stacking on, and that invariably will probably happen again.
Almost certainly. Very soon. Let's not forget the post-credit stinger. And,
Yes. We'll see how they navigate it, and if it starts feeling like too much too soon.
You know what I like about this universe? I got to see a baby be born at light speed. That was pretty cool.
Oh,
that was a cool
gosh.
sequence. The whole I thought that was awesome. Did you guys like that sequence?
It felt like a nod to her Oscar nomination with Pieces of a Woman. That movie opens with a very memorable birth scene. It's a 30-minute sequence of a birth scene.
That's why they hired her.
Stressful scene ever, and before the credits ever roll, and I'm just like, so she knows how to have babies.
So
on camera.
I realized something about myself. I really like chaotic birthing scenes because I loved the birthing scene in this. And the first movie that I thought of where I was like, oh, chaos everywhere, but then life and everyone kind of pauses. We Live in Time. That birthing scene in the gas station with Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield, that's like
Children of Men.
That's a masterfully done scene. And I was just like thinking of all the other movies, Children of Men. I was like, I actually really kind of like chaotic birthing scenes just because it kind of emphasizing
it grounds you.
Yeah, this sort of like, yes, the chaos and life is chaos and, everything sort of happens on a whim, but then you have a new life come into the world and everyone just kind of stops for a moment.
Everyone chills out for a minute and says,
like
hey, let's go about this more delicately than we have been.
The stakes are also very clear and high and personal.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Yeah. And also Sue Storm literally being like, she's going to get your nephew, kill her. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Susan.
She's going, hey man, family, don't mess with it.
Yeah. For real.
Well, we kind of hit on this, and I think we're about out of time. But I do want to talk so briefly about, this is still going to tie back into the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. We already know this from the post-credit stinger from the Thunderbolts / New Avengers, whatever you want to call it. And we also got the tease of definitely not Robert Downey Jr. Dr. Doom in the post-credit stinger. This is obviously all leading up to Avengers Doomsday. Are you guys looking forward to what's coming next here, or does because I'm also like, this was so nice, it was so self-contained, but it's immediately gonna jump right into the deepest of ends of interconnectivity.
Yeah.
How are you guys feeling about that right now?
I mean, no, I feel I'm trepidatious about it because we know what's come before. Also, not happy with that casting choice, but we've already talked about that.
Yeah.
We've already talked about that.
I'm still not on that.
It is what it is. I'm very disappointed, but it's the reality now.
It's the reality now, yeah. I mean, the pleasure of this is just...
Malkovich was right there.
He was right there. He was right there. And so they cut him from this. So, it's like, but no, I feel like, I mean, that's inevitable, and I'll critique that when I have something to critique in front of me. But I do feel like, just this felt nice because we were able to focus on the people and the characters in the world that we're in front of, and we're able to engage with that space. And it's not just like on to the next thing. We're already talking about the next thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just we were able to just kind of have a reset, as that what Feige said, like a reset.
Yes.
And that's what this felt like. And so, as often as we are able to stop and smell the roses with the new movies coming out,
and tell character stories, they're just character stories.
Yep.
The more sustainability I feel like this enterprise is going to have. And if the creative impulses and money and capitalism, all that, it demands so much more from it, then we're gonna see the things that we love become the things that we can't stand anymore.
So, for me, I feel like the great thing about going forward, I'm intrigued because yes, we now have Franklin Richards in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but now we have Franklin Richards in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now we have to get to the issue of power scaling.
Yeah, it's gonna get kind of out of hand pretty fast
because for so long it's just been character by character by character, and now we're introducing at least recently more magic and more tech, and we're about to introduce the X-Men, so mutants, and now they call Franklin Richards like he's a beyond Omega level mutant,
Yeah.
and it's just
How do you quantify all these different
Yeah.
powers? Like who
Which-
is the strongest?
Yeah, which given in comics, that's a great thing that you can do because you have so many options. But in cinema, having it's the Superman problem. Having someone who is completely invulnerable does not make for great cinema because they have to fail. They have to get
So
hurt
what
every
makes it
once in a
interesting?
while.
Yeah.
And I feel like it could become a little bit of a problem where they almost did this with Captain Marvel, where they kind of made Captain Marvel almost like a Hail Mary, where in Endgame, she kind of came in at the very end and just kind of saved the day. And they almost made her very much like a, nothing can penetrate her, nothing can stop her, where, she actually has internal issues that can kind of slow her down a little bit. So I'm kind of a little bit worried about what they can do with that in the future without just, being a little bit lazy and just kind of being like, yeah, Franklin Richards is here, everything's good, versus, actual conflict, actual
Stakes.
growth and stakes and things like that,
But maybe Dr. Doom's going to take him in. Who
Maybe. I feel
knows?
like they're going to combine Franklin and Valeria Richards' storyline. Because if you guys don't know, Franklin has a younger sister named Valeria, who is the goddaughter of Dr. Doom. And in some iterations, she's actually his biological daughter. And the whole thing of Valeria is the one who is very close with Doom. She calls him Uncle Doom. And she's very she goes over to Latveria a lot and is very close with him. And the Fantastic Four are always like, "What are you doing?" And Doom's like, "I love children. Like this is my little girl," stuff like that. But I feel like, and Franklin's not as close with Doom, but they're still in proximity to each other. So I feel like they're kind of combining their stories, at least for Doomsday, just because of that mid-credit scene that we saw.
Well, more to come there. Arthur, are you looking forward to the next chapter of the MCU?
I'm hesitant. Just where we're at, it's I don't want to get false hope because of one really good run out of the park. So, Spider-Man I'm curious about, and they usually do pretty well by that title. And then Doomsday I'm very interested in, just to know what the plan is, I think, from there and how they get it, what Doomsday is. And then from there we'll see. I think it's just going to be a lot of hesitation, and if they really do want to slow back and kind of take a more measured approach, they can re-earn some goodwill. But right now I'm a little hesitant on where we go from here.
I think especially because I will say one thing, we didn't have time to talk about it, but one thing, purely because this is an MCU movie and because we got the post-credits stinger and Thunderbolts, in the back of my head, I kept wondering, I'm like, so when are they going to leave Earth to go to space, presumably to cross over? That's not this movie's fault, technically. It is the MCU where you're like, all right, so this has got to tie in somewhere, and it does not, and I'm thankful, and that's great. But there is this weird, and then, okay, it doesn't do it in the movie, great. Then I'm thinking, well, that means that they're going to have to do that in Avengers Doomsday. Avengers Doomsday has a lot of heavy lifting to do with setting up these pieces because right now the cast is so big, they're all these characters are just scattered everywhere right now,
Right.
and because you got Thor's coming back, you have the new Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the Foxes, the X-Men, most of them. It's and then obviously Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. There's just a lot of things I'm like, man, how long is this movie going to be? It's got it seems to me that it has quite a lot of work to do, and it's
What's going to suffer as a result?
Exactly. Especially coming out of this movie, it's what the strength is. It's zippy, it's self-contained, it's not over bloated, and we're immediately going to go to this other movie that's well, because we didn't do the legwork in these other movies, it's going to feel inherently that way.
Yeah.
Presumably.
Yeah.
So I'm concerned.
The only reason that I'm not worried in that regards is both the Thunderbolts post-credit scene and the Fantastic Four mid-credit scenes. They were both directed by the Russo brothers. So they were recently filmed on the lots while they've been shooting Avengers Doomsday.
Okay.
So I feel like it's more going to be a direct tie-in of instant gratification instead of us having to wait, 15 years like, the Incredible Hulk, but whatever. So I don't know. I feel like I'm a little less hesitant just because of that, but I still have my.
I also am this is gonna sound harsh. I mean, because obviously they directed some of my favorite MCU movies and including most of the Avengers movies, but the Russos have not made a good non-Avengers movie. So
Yeah,
I'm just gonna put
that's
that out there.
completely true.
Electric State is trash.
Not good.
And it had a huge budget too. So I don't know. Maybe there's a magic there between having Kevin Feige working really closely with them and RDJ. Maybe that's the sweet spot. That's the recipe. But they've not done anything since leaving the Avengers verse that have made me confident that they have great new ideas. So a lot of concerns. That said, X-Men, they're coming back on the big screen. So I'm there. Awesome. Well, anything else you guys want to add about Fantastic Four before we close out today?
One last thing. As a linguist, I just want to say, you cannot decode an entire language from knowing one sentence. That is not a thing. That is not a thing. I know that he used the term Rosetta Stone and everyone was like, okay, cool. The thing is,
The app?
the original Rosetta Stone. So the reason why people use Rosetta Stone as like a cop-out is because, they had Egyptian hieroglyphics and they had written ancient Greek in it. The reason they could transcribe those hieroglyphics was because the people studying them knew ancient Greek. They had context. Language is a living, breathing thing. You need to have Shalabal right there telling you, hey, this is the context in which you use it. You have to get a sound system together. You have to get words together. You have to know what order they put words in, because it's like everything is situational and contextual. You don't know where those recordings were, like what they were talking about or what they were doing. Like it was just completely out of the realm of like any sort of possibility for me. I had to be like, okay, I'm just gonna sit here and watch it. Okay, that's my complaint. Thank you.
Movies. Okay,
I just thought it was funny that both Eric Carl and Judaism made it into the alternate universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very impressive. It was, when you look at what made it into the, they also had the Monster Mash, we get that converted to the alternate universe.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun to see that stuff sneak in. All those, I did love, I'm a sucker for all the alternate brands they did too. Just fun stuff. All right. Well, I'm sorry, Jada, we'll have to save our beef about Reed Richards for another time. Never podcast. But I say it to say, there's no beef. I think Pedro Pascal was perfectly fine.
Yeah. We can talk about it later.
That's right. All right. Well, hey, Arthur, Jada, Laron, thanks so much for joining us today. Arthur Gordon, where can people keep up with you and all the work you're doing online?
You can just go to goodtrashmedia.com or check out our link tree at goodtrashmedia and find us.
Very good. And you guys are wrapping up you're in like the middle of a series right
I
now.
don't know. Where are we at? When does this drop? Because that'll help me.
This Wednesday. It's next week.
So August?
Technically July 30th.
31st.
Okay.
30th, yeah.
30th.
So yeah, we just wrapped up our season of the list. So we did a lot of top 10 countdowns. We did our top 10 of the 25th century.
Nice.
We did top 10 AFI replacements. So stuff like that. And we're about to kick off a remake sequel where we're covering remakes of movies we've covered on the show before.
Ooh, that's a fun
Yeah.
remake.
So we're starting with Assault on Precinct 13 from 2005.
There was a remake of that?
In 2005.
I had no idea.
Mhm.
Holy cow.
With the
No, that is the remake.
Oh, that is the remake.
Because we've done the original.
Yeah.
So the 2005 is the remake.
Yeah.
With Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke. Yeah,
And
I'm thinking
Fish.
of Pelham 1, 2, 3. Never
Oh,
mind.
yeah.
Another remake.
See, I didn't even realize there was a remake. I only knew about the original John Carpenter film. So, you know.
Yeah. You should see it. And you're an Ethan Hawke
I
fan,
am
so
a huge
you would enjoy
Hawk
it.
stan.
You'd
Yeah.
enjoy it.
All right. Very good. Well, can't wait to check that out. GoodTrashMedia.com. Thanks, Arthur. Jada, where can people follow you online?
You can follow me on Instagram at j.merritt. That's Merri with 3 T's at the end. Or on Letterboxd at jnmerri, jnmerri. Yeah, I just put my name in things. So, yeah.
Makes it easy to find.
Yeah.
Laron Chapman?
If you want to follow my very random stream of consciousness on Facebook, a combination of angry political rants, Beyonce news, and the occasional horror movie that I'm trying to elevate.
So the internet.
So the internet, yes, I am. Yes, I'm an amalgamation of that. But if otherwise, you can find my bite-sized reviews on Letterboxd at black_Cine_man, or you can follow me on thecinemetropolis.com with real insights with Laron Chapman.
Whoop, whoop. Check it out. You can find me on all the social media channels at C Masters Talk. That's letter C Masters Talk, Letterboxd, Instagram. All you know what to do. Or you could just go to thecinematropolis.com and check out all the podcasts and write-ups and things we got going on. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. The summer is about to be over. That's why we'll catch you next week with our special review of I Know What You Did Last Summer, 2025.